Dun, 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 dun. There we go. Right. Good morning, Simon, and good evening
Morning,
to you. But good
afternoon, evening,
morning,
good night.
good morning to all of us over here on the left coast of the U.S. Yes. I should have stopped calling it
So,
West Coast because we have a connotation with West Coast and what it means. I'm just over here on the left side of the U.S. in case people don't know where that is. Yeah. So here we are. Yeah, I'm almost awake. I went up, did as usual, karaoke Tuesday night, every Tuesday night. So I was always like, oh, how soon before I can get my 3 songs in so I can sneak away and come and try to get to sleep after being wound up doing karaoke. That's always a challenge. That is always a challenge because I drink like a ton of Diet Coke while I'm there. Not specific brand names, but I guess Diet Cola, I should say. And
sure.
and I'm really wound up like the whole time. I'm like there from like 6 p.m. onward. It's just and then I have to come home and then just be calm. And no, that doesn't work well for me. I'm still on stage. It feels like sometimes. So it's karaoke. Friday nights are better because Friday nights I don't have anything to do Saturday morning, so I can run a full 6-hour Friday night karaoke session. I actually run the session on Friday nights. I'm the KJ they call it. So that's been a lot of fun. And got to meet a lot of cool people that way, and get to do what I want to do most, which is stand in the camera, stand on the limelight, and let people know my every thought, whether it's ridiculous or not. Because sometimes it is.
We
But not today, not now. Today we have important thoughts that we're working on. We're working on Flutter and Dart related things with experts, Simon, and then me too. But
had
mostly Simon. he does all the heavy lifting. I just push buttons here. I'm some monkey on this side pushing buttons.
So I will say that we did get a new release of Flutter this week, 3.27.3.
Minor though.
Released
Like
yesterday,
nothing.
I think it was. 20 hours ago.
Yeah.
We got a few little changes, so I might as well. Actually, Joel, before we get to that, let's do the little intro thing, and then we can get going. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do the paperwork here first. Yes. Why is it all light blue? Is that just something weird on my screen?
That's just something weird on your screen. Just carry on.
Oh, right. Okay, because it was highlighted somewhere. Something was broken there. Okay. Hey, so we have some do's and don'ts. Be nice, be respectful, be constructive. So just be good to each other. I mean, we're all friends here, and we like to make sure that we stay that way. Don't post anything if it's adult or rude or offensive. I mean, adult like knowledge level is fine, not not like salacious. Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Word? Yeah. None of that. Yeah, we don't want to do that here. There's other shows for that. Uh, don't advertise or promote anything unless your face is on the screen. If your face is on the screen, you can promote all that you want because that's really our payment for being here is that we get to push some things that we're working on. Don't spam. Don't keep typing the same message over and over again. We do have ban hammers. We do have delete capabilities. We will, if we notice it, delete it. More importantly, since y'all are asking questions in the chat from time to time, if you repeat your question, you lose your place in line. I will take you out of where you were first asking it and put it later. Trust us, we do see most messages in the chat. Occasionally they hide from us because they have URLs. That's very important. We'll get to that in a second. We also would like you to put Q: in front of your questions that are for us rather than just discussing amongst each other, because that does happen a lot as well. So again, don't post the same message multiple times because it will take you out of the queue and we'll just be deleting the stuff that's duplicated or possibly ban you. That's just sucks. And again, harassment of any kind not tolerated. We have ban hammers, we use them, but do have a good time. We have a good time doing this show. It's a lot of fun sharing our knowledge and being stumped by y'all sometimes. That's always kind of fun. It does happen occasionally, so I always put that out as a challenge. But that's pretty much that. I think that covers it, Simon.
Yeah, definitely have a good time. As we did alluded to there, if you do post links, sorry, if you do post links, we won't see them. So if you want to post code or an example or something like that, then what you need to do is go into the into just what's it?
Just.new.
Just.new, the website. That'll take you to just the new GitHub webpage. GitHub webpage. That's a new one.
GitHub, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Anyway,
oh, there's just snippets of code everywhere. Bunches of snippets of code.
And yeah, if you go there, you can then post your code, and then in the URL, you'll see that at the end of you have your username, your GitHub username, and afterwards a hash. That is a hexadecimal number. You want to take that, stick that in the chat, and we can look and find your gist from that alone. So yeah, that should be enough. Let's do some brief introductions, then we can get to the show, and we get to some live coding as well. My name's Sam Lightfoot, Flutter community leader, CTO at Dev Angels London. And you can follow me at Dev Angels London on many social medias, or just look for my name or something, you'll find me. I will mention that I don't know what worked for Google, neither does Randall. You may be GDEs and other experts, but not working for Google. Scott can't make it, neither can Danielle this week. So Randall, it's all down to you.
I'm virtual Scott this week. I get to run the co-host position, which is a lot more work because I have to both watch the chat and also then talk to you about the questions that are coming up. And it means I can't go sneak off and hide off screen like I often like to do. Today, I am it for it. I mean, that's how it works. I am a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert. What that means is I'm one of the 10 people in the US that Google has blessed as someone who is recognized as an expert. That means I spend a lot of my time answering questions on Discord, Stack Overflow, Reddit, any other place. I have Facebook occasionally. Sometimes even answering questions in X or Blue Sky. It's been really crazy where I get questions. But I also present at conferences and in virtual conferences. So I've often been doing talks through, for a local GDG. So I do want to make that available. If you want a Flutter talk at your local GDG, have your coordinator find me. I'm easily found all over the place. So. And because I'm very happy to present remotely, and I've got a lot of topics I can actually talk about. So please feel free to do that, and hopefully see some of you at I/O if you get to go to I/O this year, because it sounds like I'm going, so that'll be nice. And apparently, that means I'm still in the GDE program, I think, because I got the early invite. So apparently, I haven't been released from GDE-ism yet. So it's 6 years and counting now. So here I am.
As I say, and hopefully we'll be seeing you at FlutterCon USA this year. So
yeah, well, that'll be cool. Yeah, I'll go where I'm invited.
So as I was alluding to just before we go into the introduction, so Flutter released 3.27.3, and it's a couple of interesting changes. We've got a few issues around animations and full screen wrap transitions. You can obviously go look at the issue. So this one I kind of found interesting, which was the tracking via Google Analytics, the use of Dart IoT Android deferred components, if they're being meaningfully used, which this term meaningfully used is interesting because it probably means that I think they're probably realizing not many people are using Android deferred components. Maybe they're thinking of deprecating, maybe they're thinking of changing the way deferred components work to maybe allude to more platforms. I have no idea. This is just me guessing and to the meaning of what I'm seeing here. But it doesn't really, obviously this is just, let's go track some statistics, right? But I think the deferred components piece, which has always been around for a while, really didn't have, it doesn't have, the problem here is that you don't use deferred components if it only supports Android, because now you're just supporting the Android platform, right? So although you can integrate deferred components and you can do this, for those that don't know, that's like splitting your app up into chunks so that you don't have to like load everything all at once. So this is what you get, deferred as box, right? So now the whole box and everything that depends on doesn't have to be loaded until you load it with box.load library. And you get future, and then once it's loaded in, then you can then access whatever's inside of box, in this case a widget called deferred box, right?
Is this separate from what the web deferred
loading
is?
Well, it works the same way, and the syntax and what you put inside the code is the same, right? However, The difference is this is like a natively compiled deferred one. Now, none of the other platforms, as far as I understand it, I may be wrong, but as far as I understand it, only Android and web support deferred components.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is which is why this doesn't really work, right? In terms of not many people use it because are you only supporting those platforms, right? But yeah, like there's some interesting ideas that I really want to see this. Like this makes so much sense to come into like all of the platforms, but maybe they want to change it. Maybe they want to remove it. Who knows? But it's definitely something that.
It's an interesting question. No, TreeShake doesn't manage this because TreeShake takes out code that is never called. Deferred components are to use code that isn't always being used, but will sometimes, and therefore needs to be able to be loaded. Yeah.
The primary use of deferred components is to reduce the install APK size, as well as reduce the storage space taken up by the app by missing features the user may not use. This feature is currently experimental preview feature only available on Android. The thing is, it does worry me, right? Because if they're going to go, oh, it's not many people using it, so we're going to remove this. Well, I think more people would have used it if it was supported on multiple platforms, right?
Yeah.
At least iOS as well as Android, right? But the models work differently. We'll see. Maybe I'm again, this is my opinion, and maybe it's not what they're trying to do, but at least they need to get the stats so they can then discern what they want to do, right? And that's what they've now done. So it might be a year away from changing before we actually see any changes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's interesting. It's interesting because it actually does describe here on how it actually works internally, which might be of interest to some people. So I'll pop this link in the chat.
Yeah. People always are happy about getting more.
That's worth a read. I think that's worth a read for quite a few people, actually. It's always fun looking at the internal workings.
Yep.
I mean, we haven't actually.
Source is cool. We've got gist.
We have a couple of gist posts as well.
When we get to the questions,
same one.
Oh, okay.
Multiple posts already.
I know we're up to 3. Well, anyway, all good. I've been working a lot with Riverpod lately. I'm still trying to. I'm waffling between 4 or 5 really good ideas for YouTube postings, and the problem is I get started on one and I go, no, I don't know, that's going to be a little tough to talk about. So I switch to one of the other ones, and then I work on that for a while.
Let's be honest about this, Brandon. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
It's true.
The reason why people want to listen to you is because they don't know. They have to learn.
Well, it's funny. I was just rewatching my Riverpod Global Myth video, and I actually put a lot of thought into this video. There's a lot of elements to it. And I went, that's the problem. I have such a high standard for my videos that I really want to have every video people would say that about it. I don't want just throwaway little videos, but I want to do one on exceptions because people seem to keep getting exceptions wrong all the time. And like not keeping the stack trace when you could, catching things you shouldn't catch, catching errors, all sorts of junk on that. Yeah, perfectly. Yes, right. The shiny object. I've got way too many shiny objects in my world. It's a good thing I'm not a cat, or I'd be like pawing all the time for everything.
Someone brought to me. I was chatting the other day around Resident Evil, and I was like, oh yeah, I started making a Resident Evil port in Flutter and blah 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 blah. And I was like, damn, I haven't touched that in so long. My idea was that I'd be using Flutter GPU and doing that rather than continuing where I was going with it. But there's so much more I could do that doesn't revolve around just the rendering that I could get back to that. Yeah, too many little shiny toys. That's the problem. Too many things to try out.
Direction. And so I end up in lack of movement, stasis, I guess they call it. I just stop. It's like I'm overwhelmed by
information overload. Information overload is the technical term, apparently. But yeah,
and I've got I've got a couple of small projects for clients as well, so I'm trying to like juggle doing the hours here and there and there. Luckily, a lot of them are pair programming and stuff. So as soon as they book it, now I know I'm definitely spending an hour doing that today. So that makes a difference. Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
When is what?
There's another name for that. That's like indecision, like in status. It's like when you've got too many options, you can't choose, right? Because
Analysis paralysis.
analysis paralysis. That's the one. That's the one I was thinking of. And it's kind of interesting because always when you get into that situation with any coding, just do something. Is the answer. Just pick anyone. It literally doesn't matter. Just pick something. Know that you're going to delete or throw it away, but it kind of gets the brain going, kind of gets you out of that paralysis and kind of moves you forward, right?
Right. And I keep thinking, especially with my YouTube channel, and I apologize for everybody who's been waiting for at least 2 months now for my next posting, and I keep saying it's going to be right around the corner. It's that I forget that I don't have to make it up like so good it will be permanently like a pivot point for everybody or whatever, because I got junk in there from 5 years ago that probably should just be removed because it's out of date, and it doesn't make any sense to even leave it there. So it still bugs me though that I'm not going to build something that I think would be eternally great.
If you're going to take a video down, mark it as unlisted. Do that, because it does annoy me the way that I've seen it before, where you're like on an article or something and it links to content and then it's gone. You're like,
yeah.
Okay, you want to publicize it, fine, but then at least let it still be accessible when it needs to be. All right. Like,
what I have done is I go in and because I can update the description, I will sometimes say this technique is actually no longer recommended, or I have a better video on this over here.
Do you know what people do now is that, a lot of YouTubers do now, they actually comment on their own videos and then they pin that comment because the description is automatically collapsed. A lot of people don't even read it, which kind of sucks because, like,
good point.
Yeah. So a lot.
Now I know what I'm doing this afternoon. Much updates to pinpoints. Oh my god.
Anyway, right. So we
thank you, Simon, for telling me the next thing I got to do now.
You're welcome. Now you're out of paralysis, analysis paralysis. You see, right? Well, we're gonna get on with some answering the questions and keep rolling, and then we'll jump on some coding and we'll answer questions as we go, and we'll just have a good time. So
the first question is for me. So Simon, you can take a tiny break, but I'm not actually sure how I'm going to answer this yet. Yeah, and your video is stuttering to me. I don't know if that's just me or if it's the whole stream, but
seems okay here. I'll check on the output.
Yeah, okay. I turned off everything that might be making my connection shorter. Randall, can you share some Perl language features, philosophy that can be useful in Flutter or in general? I think what Perl taught me was understand. Well, the thing about Perl is that there's a zillion ways to do everything. And the important thing is not to get hung up on that. It's just to take it and do it some way. It's really dovetails with the conversation we were just having. But to kind of do that, Perl is really its own beast. It has a certain way that you approach problems when you have this wonderful, 17,000 bladed Swiss Army knife, and it warped me a lot. I think the fact that I spent 25 years primarily in Perl, I don't see that showing up so much in my Dart coding. I did learn with Perl, though, to do pipelines. So we would have a list of things gets transformed to a different list of things, which then gets joined with another list, which then gets mapped and transformed once again into something new. That kind of assembly line calculations made is really convenient in Perl a lot. In fact, that's where the Schwartzian transform came from, named after me, but not by me. I'm not that vain. And keep explaining that to everybody. I didn't name it. So I find myself doing some of that in Dart. That I'll take a thing that's piped into another thing that's piped into another thing. It's a transform of a transform of a transform, and learning to think in terms of that kind of strategy. I think Perl definitely taught me. What I really miss the most from Perl is the regular expressions, which were really native to the language, and it always seemed like a bolt-on in every other language. It just doesn't seem
JavaScript
real and
has it built
natural.
in. JavaScript built in like Perl does.
You still got to make a regex object.
Do you know you can just do slash like you can in Perl?
What? When did they add that?
No, it always been there in an if statement. You can just do like slash and then whenever like in Perl.
What? No, maybe TypeScript. No, I don't think
No,
JavaScript ever had that.
no. JavaScript at the very beginning. It was one of those things. It got it from Perl. I'm like 100% sure, but I may be conflating this with Perl because it's been a while. I'm going to have a look.
I don't think so. I think you have to have a regex object, and that's part of what. Yeah, I know. So Simon's going to be looking that up while I'm moving on to the next question.
It's going to bug me. It's going to bug me if I don't know. Yeah, no, you can.
I know.
In JS, it literally shows me a thing here. Or you can do regex. Hang on, let me just show you. Yeah.
Okay, so why can't we do that in Dart? Please, somebody make that work.
There you go.
Okay.
You do two modes. You can do it with slashes, or you can do it with like this.
Oh, how nice!
And you can do this in an if statement and everything if you don't want to have a constant object.
Yeah.
So you can do this, and it doesn't match an if statement. I remember that. I do. But
they definitely stole that from Perl.
Oh yeah, no.
But I don't know that was in the early JavaScript though. I think that's a later ECMA version.
No, I literally think that was the original. I honestly think that was the original. It was one of those things.
Wow.
But to be honest, it's like the problem. Regular expressions are fine, and I loosely say that regular expressions are fine. But the problem here is it is so easy to shoot yourself in the foot in so many ways, and it can be like a cure-all, right? Like everyone just reaches for regular expressions because they're there, rather than actually going, what is the best way for me to attempt to solve this problem? Regular expression is not always the best way.
No.
In a scripting sense, yes, because it's scripting, right? Like it's throwaway code, right? But then in an app, I'm like, probably wouldn't be reaching for regular expressions as my primary.
The closest thing in Dart that really sort of feels like regular expressions is Petit Parser, which I've done some work with.
Oh, Petit Parser, yeah.
Petit Parser, but I'm really hoping for a real thing. I want to have a actual call from the field to produce something with
the things that actually help bridge that gap is the pattern matching as well, right? So pattern matching in general helps. Right. Anyway, let's.
Okay.
What's next on the list?
We can do that forever. Let's go to the next one here. Building a website. Here's my homepage file. That's what the gist was. So far. Input and advice goes a long way. I already said Flutter is not for websites. Flutter is for web apps. Jasper is what you want to look at for websites, and I've already put that in the chats.
I've seen quite a few. You should name the file, by the way, Solomon. If you can edit your gist, edit the file name to something .dart like main.dart, and you'll get syntax highlighting. If you name it .text like you have, it's harder to read. So if you can change that, we'll take a look in a minute. Let's just leave that in the backlog.
Got it.
And we'll come back to
Got
that.
it. Okay. Oops. Somebody did something quickly there.
That's me. Sorry.
No. I hate this UI and that you're trying to click on something and then somebody else does something and it moves everything around. It shouldn't move anything around that I'm currently highlighting.
You've just nailed something now. I want us to explore.
We can do that in Flutter or something.
Yeah. No, there's actually something. It's actually around that because it's a really important thing that most people don't know how to deal with.
Brilliant. Occasionally I have my moments of brilliance. Yes, here we go. So Most icon packages I use have a problem with tree shaking. Is there any way to manually remove unused icons?
It does it anyway. What's the problem with tree shaking? Okay. So first of all, if you're using SVG files or assets, no, they're not removed because you don't. It doesn't know if an asset's been referenced because they're not passed like that. I am hoping that we're going to see a change in that front, and it's getting there with some of the other assets. Now we can do assets for different flavors, right? But when it comes to icon fonts, when you do a release build, all the icons that you're not using are stripped out. That is the thing it does.
In the
so
release build.
You'll see like it says material icons have been reduced by like 75%, and it'll be all the icon files you're using. So as long as you use an icon font, so there should be no reason why that shouldn't work, even with an external package. If it's not working, that's curious. But you can also make your own. That's another thing. You just said, how can I make my own? Do you know what? There used to be a website I used to use where you just do it in the web page, and the JavaScript would actually like generate you the TTF file. You just chuck in your app. I'm just going to say Google around for it. I don't think I could find that now. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I want to say
back in the GeoCities days.
I mean, I just found one called Fontello. I have no idea if it's any good. It looks like it's open source, so I'll chuck a link in the chat. In fact, I'll show it on stream. Why not?
Cool.
There you go. So yeah, so drag your custom SVG icons here or whatever you want. So you can choose the ones you want, I guess. So you choose all these, and then that's it. Download font. I guess, and then off you go, and you get down. You can't see it, but you get downloaded as a zip file. So the idea is that you could load in your font, or you can export your SVGs and choose whatever icons you want, and you make up a custom icon font. Some of these have this thing, font name. Oh, here you go. So the ones I've selected, I can change the name of them, customize codes. This is what you care. This is the bit you care about. Let me zoom in on this. So inside of Flutter, we do icon data. Icon data has a number, and it is this number here. So it's 0xE806, or you put this in decimal. And this is basically just the character code. It's the index into the glyphs in the font for this character, right? This glyph. So that's it. It's that simple. So you can edit these to wherever you want. So, and then you can make up a Dart file, which is a list of icon data variables with those values, and you're done with the name of the font that matches the file.
The number there is like in ASCII, a space is 32 decimal 20 hex. And so it's like the index into all the possible characters, and there's what is it, 32 bits of space, I guess.
You mean this?
4 characters. Yeah, 4 times
in the
8, right?
Yeah.
In Unicode, it's like 32 bits.
Yeah. Right? So effectively in UTF-8 it's more, it can be more than 32 bits. But
because you have the
practice,
extended things.
In practice, that's not very often. With the emojis, you can. If you go more than 32, then you get into what's called graphing clusters, which is a whole different thing.
Cluster. It's a whole cluster.
It's a whole cluster F. Yeah, it is. Anyway, but this is, if those that don't know, this is what's called the ASCII table. This is what's commonly referred to. I'm just going to hide up the screen so you can see. This is, you should know this. And if you don't know it, you should literally be referring to this every day when you're looking at characters. So when you look at a character, like you have in a string .char codes, right? Each one of the codes is going to be one of these decimal values if it's ASCII, and then obviously it'll go higher into Unicode, into the full glyphs for like various different, like, E with an acute symbol and all sorts of other things. I won't go into it. But anyway, but this one is pretty much needed for any sort of parsing or any sort of anything, right? You should. There's some really neat things the way this has been laid out. For example, you'll notice that between 65 and 97 is 32. So there's one bit. It's the fifth bit in the binary sequence that will represent this number that goes from uppercase to lowercase. So you just need to AND an ASCII character with bit 5 set, which would be the value 32, I believe, and then it will literally tell you if it's uppercase or lowercase. right? And there's little tricks you can do inside of the set, like you can see here, like 60, say 30 hex to 39 hex is 0 to 9. So if you say, oh, if the value's between here and here, then it must be decimal, done, right? Or a whole number, an integer number. And then if you negate 30, the value 30 hex or 48 decimal off of the number, you now have the actual number in binary between 0 and 9, because take 48 off of 48 is 0, take 48 off of 49 is 1, and so on, right? So there's some really clever things you can do with the way that this is laid out, that was thought up over the time when this was invented, right? So that's one thing. And what you see down the left here are what you call control characters. These are all used in the old terminals and your console on your terminal. So when you go to the next line, we go backspace, is that character. Go for a horizontal tab, like tab in your editor, is that one. And then you have LF and NL. So line feed and carriage return, or CR, carriage return and line feed are the two characters that are used to say, as it says, line feed goes to down one line. It's for a printer to go up one line on the print, and then carriage return takes you back to the beginning. It's the same as it's from old typewriters. You return the carriage on the typewriter, right? But anyway, so yeah, there's a bunch of things in here that are still used, like the escape character is very important for colors. If you literally on right now on Dart do print, quote mark /x 1b, and then do something like 32 semicolon m, you would change it into, I think, green on your terminal, right? I don't know why that brings a bell to my head, but yeah, there you go. So there's fancy things you can do with all of these things. But anyway, historical.
Bring it back up just for a second.
Oh,
Bring it back up just for a second.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that when I coded in Emacs all the time, which I don't anymore, I only invoke Emacs about once a month now. I had to have a prefix key that was different from everything else and could guarantee it'd be different from everything else. Of course, I picked the 30 decimal, which is the RS key. RS key. So yeah, so it's control up arrow. Anyway.
Yeah, so that's another interesting thing. If you were to listen to standard in on your terminal app, that's in Dart, STDIN. We get it from Dart.io. You can read the characters in from that. And if you press different keys on your keyboard, like we just said, up arrow, down arrow, left arrow, you'll get what's a control sequence is coming in. And that'll tell you what keyboard keys people are pressing.
Yep. Cool stuff. All right.
Anyway,
a little nostalgia there. That's really wonderful. And please stop saying 8-bit ASCII. It grates my ears every time somebody says that. There is no such thing. ASCII is 7 bits. We saw the entire table right there. That's ASCII.
120.
It doesn't go any further than that.
There is the extended
Latin one.
Well, there is the extended ASCII set, right? Which is 8-bit.
They call it ASCII anymore, though.
No, it's called extended ASCII.
Okay, well,
and then EBD,
something
like that.
EBCDIC. Yes. Oh, yes. You don't even want to go there. Embado. We don't even want to do that either. Those are all encoding systems that existed back long ago, way before we had
find it now. I've got to find it now. I've got to find
it.
So,
there's the Windows character.
Now you're going to do it. Extended binary coded decimal interchange code, EBCDIC. I knew it's close.
EBCDIC.
Yeah.
EBCDIC. That's what
this is a form of encoding so that you can get higher characters. It's actually going to give me a table. It's not going to give me a table. Well, whatever, you get the idea. But this was so that this was to solve the same problem, right? Which was how do you get to more than 8 bits of support in a character table?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's not go.
I think we diverted enough that we actually have 7 questions in the queue now. So this is great. All right, we were basically just stalling. That's really all we were doing. And sharing useful historical information from the people who lived through it. That's kind of helpful.
Let's go back to this one.
Okay.
Since I have the code now.
And we're done with the icon one, right? Yeah.
Let's open this up. So my homepage is a simple web app. Okay. So homepage, yeah. Don't do this. Don't do
Oh,
this. Don't do this.
sized box dot expand, dude. Size box dot expand. That's all you need ever.
Yeah. Don't. So first of all, this what you're doing here is saying anything can be the career changes. It should rebuild your widget. You should do size
Correct.
of if you want the size, right? Next is here is you're putting these into member variables. I mean, yeah.
Oh.
Again, these are this is a sign
Right.
of not how to do things as well. We could actually take this into some live coding. We could which exploits. I'm not again. This is not something. This is not us. We're trying to give you advice here, right? So don't take this as like criticism. I mean, like we've spent more time with this, right? So, but yes, a gesture detector on the leading. Yeah, sure. So all this, I love the way you're doing this, right? Like it does make sense in terms of you want to make it so that you're using fractional sizes and things are changing, but really it's more about that you want the layout to do this, right? So you want to use things like fractional box and things like that, which are actually going to size it appropriately rather than it being like I'm going to do it this much, right? Yeah, so we could look at this background. Oh, that's another thing. So I was playing around with the new colors. You know, the latest version of Dart, they changed the way color works.
Right.
And I don't think people realize that the values that are inside color now are floating point, right? So A, B, G, R, there's 4 variables in there that are between 0 and 1, or they could be higher than 1 with a dynamic range, right? So you can get like full HDR, like 10-bit values represented as floating point numbers, basically, if you wanted to, right? There's a bunch of really cool stuff you can do with that. But yeah, I see people trying to do things like with alpha and then trying to take their float point number, multiply it by 255 to kind of get. I'm like, no, just set alpha with the float. Like you're done. 0.5.
Right.
You know, you got your 50%, right? Anyway.
Yeah.
Spacer.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is also another anti-pattern, right? You've got a function that okay, well, what's this? What is this on the drop-down tab? Is this the title of the tab? What is this? And this is the problem, right? Like this should be a widget called drop-down tab then, right?
Yeah.
So sorry, I know you didn't ask for criticism, but I'm giving it to you anyway. So just stuck it
Code
up.
review.
Code
Code review live. Yes.
Pop-up
Imagine
menu
us.
items.
Imagine us on a code review team working within your agile organization. We would be ruthless.
This is another interesting thing. See the repeated pattern. Whenever you see a repeated pattern in code, you're doing it wrong. That's another thing you have to think about, right? So this in itself could just be a widget that extends pop-up menu item that default sets these parameters, right? Even better, you can actually set like the default text style to be this on the pop-up menu items, right, in the theme. So that would also work. But yeah, okay, cool. So we have some menu items, then we have body, column center. Again, these should all be widgets. Look, you've literally called it selling point widget, bestseller widgets, homepage. Why are they functions? Right?
Not only that, the fact that you had to pass context down to them means something is probably wrong.
Yeah. And this is because this is not stateful, right? No, it is stateful. There's no need to pass context on a stateful widget because you have access to context. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Container. Most times, container's fine. It would mean that you couldn't make certain parts of your code constant. But even ignoring that minor issue, this is probably where you go wrong. Double infinity. It's a workaround, right? You're saying make my container wants to be as big as it possibly can, rather than the outside saying this is how big you should be. Now you can have both scenarios work, right? But it's kind of like if you can keep your layout so the constraints are not going in opposite directions, right? Like in certain ways, then you're going to get a whole easier time understanding layout problems when you get them. So in this case, I would have had the widget around it, pull it out larger, right? So give it tight constraints. So in this case, for example, in this case, sorry, homepage banner widget is inside a column. So this should have its cross-axis alignment set to stretch. This forces the widgets inside to fill the container's width, which is, if we go down, we're probably going to find that all of your widgets have double dot infinity on them, right? To do exactly that. So the problem here is that the column was not passing the constraint down. Okay, 35% height, image, cover. Whenever you have a column, just always put cross-axis alignment. Stretch. That's the one, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Alter size text. Sure, if you want to. These colors, these. Why not just have constant colors? Like you've literally put this color in like these colors multiple times. Make yourself a little class with some static constant values in and name them. Great color, or highlighted text menu item color, or whatever you're doing, right? That then indicates what they're used for and what they are, right? Because
even better, pull out the text style and make it a constant as well.
Yeah, that
your text style is exactly the same all the way in the previous fields that I saw earlier up further. Yeah.
So, for example, this function you can't make the black constant, right? But you could do color from RGB 0, do 0, 0, 0, 0.5, right? Now you've got black with opacity 50% and it's constant, right? Anyway, God, did you want to add something here?
No, I was just going to say in response to your comment about container, I have put my latest video, which happens to be about what's inside a container. So you can understand that sometimes you don't need a container. In fact, if you use all the pieces that a container might make up to like 8 or 9 different levels, each of those individually are constable, which means you could actually have a const widget with a certain shape, size, color, everything like that, but is now const so that it processes faster. And that's the video I just put in the chats.
Yeah, it was also mentioned that you can use the theme extension for this, and yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about theme extension, I mean, I would say make a static first because it's easier, and then you can then put that into a theme extension. But the point here being that you can switch out the colors, right? So as you can see here, there's a comma missing right here. You know, there's a comma missing because there's a double indent, right? So most layouts, if you see a double indent, you're missing a comma, right? And if you have an if statement, on the other hand, that in a square brackets, you're missing it. So again, here, put comma there. Happy days. What else we got here? Row min, sure. See, this is interesting, right? So it's like the row is going to be set to the minimum size, and because it's set to center, by default, it's going to put these two widgets in the center next to each other. But what you can also do is have the row fill the size and then position the contents to the center, right? So there's two approaches to that, right? Which the end result is the same look, right? Whether or not, it depends on what you're doing on layout, right? I personally have a file that I use, which I'll share with people. I think I have done it. It's on my gists, where I set a bunch of these up and just say this. In this case, this would be horizontal margin 4. I just have a const value, a const size box that you can pop anywhere, and yeah, it means it explains what it is rather than you having to say put this in there and explain why, maybe, right?
Oh.
Yeah, like space around here, right? So this is putting space around it in the main axis. This is the same what I was just saying. Max and space around is doing the same as putting min here and having the outside column center, but from inside this widget, you don't know that, right? There's something that you want to kind of get into in terms of, this is kind of, again, it's one of those things of building layouts in Flutter. Padding and margin is the same thing, right? You're just putting space, right? You're just reserving a certain amount of space in your layout. However, think about, it's called a box model in web, but you think about this model of where is the border of your widget? What's on the outside of my border is the margin, and what's inside my border is the padding. You can represent both with a padding widget, but it's key to the point here is that when you build a widget, let's say this was a widget with a proper constructor, then what goes inside this would be padding. So if you put a padding widget in here, that's what you consider padding for the widget. Now you could still wrap the widget itself, that's where you use the selling point widget, in a padding, but that would be then considered margin, right? Even as a padding widget, you consider it margin. There's a very distinct difference here because it's the responsibility of the widget laying out that widget to put margins on, and the responsibility of the widget itself to put padding on. And by doing that, having that separation, you can really control your layouts very well. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully that helps. I think I explained that well. What do you think?
And I think also the in the container talk, I think I mentioned that both padding and margin end up creating a padding, but just where it is in the layout of the multiple 8 layers of action. So they're really underneath using exactly the same thing, padding. So interesting.
Who was the name of that? Solomon. Okay, Solomon.
That's Solomon.
Tell you what we'll do is we'll take all those things we just spoke about, and when we get to the live coding bit, we'll take your code and we'll implement some of the fixes there and show you how you can do some different things. It's a bit hard because I don't have the images, so we'll have to put placeholders in, so it won't be exactly the same, but hopefully that will put you in the right direction and help others. So,
but prepare to be amazed. Yes. We got some more questions if you want to move on. Let's see here. This is interesting. Is Flutter casual games and Flame good for building games or mobile, or what kind of games can we make? Hopefully good ones.
Someone just John Schneepers. John's just pointed out that there is examples of us using those widgets, and there's other widgets in the WoW shopping app, which is a great example app. So I've posted a link in the chat for anyone that's interested.
Cool. So
sorry, go on.
Yeah. I mean, Rive, Flame, the good stuff, right?
Lots of casual games and Flame good for building games for mobile. What kind of games? Interesting. What kind of games? The thing is with games, you can build okay. How do I put this? Currently not 3D. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, but okay. There is 3D coming, and Flame has a 3D thing they're working on with Flutter GPU, so it is coming. It is coming. So I'm not. But yeah, what kind of games though? You say kind as in what category of games? Well, puzzle games, strategy games. I mean, whatever you want. The point here is it's like saying that, I think it's a difference of, it's not what kind of games. It's what you want to build, really. Yeah, I can't think of any particular. I think maybe you're asking the wrong. I think maybe the question here is saying, what kind of game do you want to make, and start investigating that game that you want to make and how those games are made, and start learning that, right? There's concepts that you learn when making games like animation, like velocity and movement on Cartesian coordinates and blah 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 blah. And there's game, I think it's gamedev.net, which I think is the biggest site online for ages for game developers, forums and stuff that answer a lot of these questions and have tips, and there's tutorials all over the place. But if you go start looking for building a strategy game or RPG with Flutter casual games, you're probably going to get nothing, right? So you need to be looking at the more general, and then going, how do I do that in Flutter, right, in Flame? And then that's what you need to figure out. It's all possible.
You certainly have the capability, especially with custom paint and some of the vector renderers and things like that now, and the fact that we can access the GPU shortly or already can, that you can build all that. It's just that there's just not a lot of support libraries out of the box that take care of a lot of that stuff. So you can always compute where to put a point on a screen. I mean, maybe not you personally, but somebody can figure out the math to know where that point goes on the screen for the corner of the guy's shoulder as he's running along. I mean, there's a way to do that. And Flutter can definitely handle the calculations reasonably fast, if not automatically 60 frames a second. So yeah, you can build anything you want. The question is, how many bits do you need to keep hauling around, and what kind of calculations do you need to do between frames? And you'll figure that out over time, I guess. And of course, the sun is hitting me right in the face again. It's that time of day.
Of course it is.
I'm gonna go off camera for a second and go find my hat. Anyway, before I do that, let me do this because it's a Riverpod questions next. So let's see. Riverpod providers. So
pick up when you get back if you want.
Sorry, what?
So you can
I'm not going away very far. I'll start with a question, then I might just shut off the camera for a second while I'm talking. Riverpod providers have new names. They aren't really, I don't think the names are changing. I think the functionality has sort of changed from 1 to 2, and then going from 2 to 3, the 3 legacy providers are being removed. And that's state provider, state notifier provider, and change notifier provider. They're being moved. They're not being actually removed from Riverpod 3. They're being moved so that you have to do a second import on legacy to be able to get those. So they'll still be there, but really, really, really discouraged, because all 3 of those encourage mutation code to be hanging out in your views rather than baked into some notifier and model. And that causes problems as things scale. It's definitely not the right way to do it. You don't want your mutation code. How are you updating state? You don't want that hanging out in the consumer widget. You want it to be in a model class or a notifier class so it can be managed and the API can be managed and all that stuff. That's really all that's changing. Riverpod 3 is also going to have sealed async values, so we can finally do exhaustive matching on pattern matching and stuff. So that'll be really nice. There's a few other minor things that have been hanging out for a while, but Riverpod 3 won't be that revolutionary. But there are some places where breaking changes have to be made. That's probably all I can really say on that. But it's still going to have the same feature notifier, stream notifier, plain notifier, and feature provider, stream provider. Some of the capabilities of those will be modified slightly, so you won't be able to get a ref as easy. It'll be a ref on the notifier that's inside those things. But again, minor details. Probably all have mechanical code fixes, which Remy is happy to do for stuff like that. So that's all I'm going to say on that. Let's get the next one started, then I can get my face covered here. I have to track the distance traveled by a person the whole day. So I'm taking the lat long of the user and a calculation done in the background of the Eversheet formula. Can you suggest to be accurate? Well, he needs to move straight vertically and straight horizontally all the time. That's important. Then it'll get the exact right lat differences and longitude differences, and that's it. No diagonals. Cannot move on a diagonal. This is not for bishops. Oh God, I don't know, Simon. You want to take that while I quickly?
Sorry, I was just trying to find something for the end of the map. Right, I'm gonna track the distance travel.
Still here. I'm getting my hat.
Yeah. You mean? I hope you mean like back into the app. Have a sign formula is fine. The problem really is how accurate is the data you've got coming in. So when you get lat long, you need to be storing a lot more than the lat long. You need to be storing there's
error button.
There's an error. There's an error. With accuracy, I think, but it's like saying it's 10 meters accurate. That means that lat long could be 10 meters completely off in any direction in the radius around the lat long point that you're talking about. So you're talking about like distance traveled, but actually what you need to make sure is your measurements that you're capturing are accurate. Otherwise, how are you going to calculate an accurate distance?
Yeah,
So, and then obviously how frequently you capture those points, right? Because the more frequently you capture them, the more accurate your path is going to be. It's the same as saying, like, you know, you had, let's say, here on the screen, right? Let's say you've got a point up here, right? And you got a point down here, and the user went up and then over, right? But if you only captured this point and this point, you might think they went diagonally. So actually, they actually went a further distance because they went up and over. But because you didn't capture any points on this route, you didn't know. So what you're doing essentially is joining dots with lines, right? When you capture points. So you need to know point. You need to know the direction of the user. There's a name for that. Heading. So you need to know the position, the heading, and actually the positioning and the heading, and start calculating all that. So the best thing you can do is actually probably, and here's the thing, this is what most people, I think most developers don't realize. You have the tools in front of you to make your own tools, right? To build code, you can build more code to help you code. That's called tooling, right? So here, in this case, if I was you, I would be making a quick app that displays a map that has all my data points that I captured, put dots on the screen where they are, drawing lines and working out what that distance is, maybe going to another distance calculator online and go, okay, what is it? Okay, it's this. How is mine coming out wrong? You know, and researching it, right? Like that's the kind of thing that you can be doing, right? Which is to figure it out. But yeah, as I say, the Haversan formula is a standard formula. Yeah, it's fine. Just make sure that your lat longs are in the same coordinate space that you're calculating in. So for WGS84, there's different ESPG, it's ESPG. Yes, 4326 and more. So this is the website. Let me bring this up for everyone at home. So this is the website that you want to know about if you're doing anything to do with all this. It's EPSG.io, right? Which is all of the EPSG standards. So 4326 is the same as WGS84, which is the original system. There is a newer version, revision date 2022. There's another, anyway, there's some other ones, but this is also about like what is the projection that actually makes this work. And there's a bunch of, like, you can see here, export, you can export the projection in various different formats, but this is basically showing you what is the extent. So you can see here, what is the center coordinate, what are the extents, and this is how you can do the calculation to make sure that they're correct. If you've got one set, I'm going to EPSG. No, I'm not going to find it now. There's another number. 3857. Is that the one?
I don't know.
It's, yeah, spherical Mercator. Official entry in the EPSG register. Bear with me. That's what. So this is the one that a lot of mapping providers use. I just want to bring this up on the screen here. So you can see here, it's WGS84, but stretched into a sphere instead of a. Hang on, let me just wrap this on the page. So for those that don't know a little bit about all this, right? So the globe itself is not a sphere. It is an oblong spheroid, i.e. a squashed sphere, right? And the problem here is that makes calculations, spherical calculations, a lot more complicated. So rather than using the true WGS84, most online providers, as shown here, use this spherical Mercator or pseudo Mercator projection, which is ESPG 3857. It doesn't have the full range, right? There's a slightly less range. Instead of 90, you get 85.06. But this means that the actual world is represented by a square. And if you do that, you can nicely break that square up into square tiles that's equally subdivided. And it's so much easier to calculate everything. So there's reasons why you may want to do one rather than another. But yeah, These are at least the two that everyone should know around.
So
Yeah,
you're saying that you're saying you can solve problems easier with the phrase "assume a spherical Earth."
Yes. But what you do, so this is the thing. Okay, so let's explain.
Yeah.
Let me just explain. You take your real lat long and a spherical projection, you reproject it. So that's just essentially convert it to a convert. Projection is just another term for it's about coordinate space, right? So like 0, 0. Oh, don't even start. 0, 0 on one projection may not be 0, 0 on another projection, right? So you take your 0, 0, you divide it by the min maxes. Now you get a percentage. Then you recalculate that percentage onto the new projection, and now you get the new coordinate, right? It sounds more complicated than it actually is, and there's all sorts of packages and things that help you deal with this. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you're doing your coordinates in one lat long space, and then you think you're plotting in a different lat long space, you're going to have a bad day, because the more you move maybe to the top of the Earth, the more distance changes, and suddenly you're moving in places where you weren't supposed to be. Very important when you're trying to calculate distance between points, because of course you may not have moved that distance. So yeah, have an understanding of this. Read up about it. But equally, what you normally do in these situations is all your calculations and display are in the spherical Mercator, or that pseudo Mercator projection, EPSG 3857. But then your storage is in true numbers, so that you can essentially, you're displaying it one way but storing it another. But do whatever you want. It really makes no difference. Right, let's move on.
Moving on. Here we go. Let's see. There's actually a follow-up to that, and I think I've been answering this person online already. There's a Stack Overflow question that sounds exactly like this. He's having trouble. If it's the same person, he's having trouble because it works fine on Android to do background, geolocation pop up into a database. And on iOS, he's having trouble. And
does Apple allow Flutter to run in the background?
I posted the paragraph from the bottom of the Flutter background service. The very last paragraph talks about how iOS only the service cheats a little bit by what it does is every 15 minutes it makes sure the fetch API gets called, and then you've only got about 30 seconds or 15 seconds of CPU before it'll kill you.
Seconds, yeah. I was going to say there is ways of doing this. There is but you need the background fetch. What's it called? Oh, sorry. Permission. Where is it? Background execution modes. Here we go. iOS tvs. So let me bring this up on stream. Why not? Yeah, configuring background execution modes. So when you're in Xcode, you need to open up your iOS directory in Xcode. Well, the workspace in your iOS directory is in Xcode, and then you follow things to add capability. You choose background modes, and then you get a choice of various background modes. Of course, the picture won't get bigger. There you go. So these are the various different things you can run in the background. Push to talk, nearby. Background processing is also one of them, right? But processing doesn't mean you can access a URL, right? Like, so there's various things, location updates in the background. You can do that. So there's a thing for that. Don't ask me how it works, but yeah. And then in here, you'll see that this app provides location-based information required to use the platform standard location service provider. So apparently on iOS, you can get location updates in the background? Question mark. So follow the guides. This is the answer, right? So start looking at the very device capabilities. The other thing you will get is, like even with Android, when you try to do stuff in the background, if you may be asked to prove why you need to do this to the App Store before the App Store will let you distribute the app, because there's certain things that you're trying to do which A, can be considered against privacy, right? And is bad for the user, but B, is also draining of the user's battery.
Yes.
So running in the background is always frowned upon. I would honestly say, why do you want to run in the background? Is this that same guy that was trying to do calculate the running where they are, or whatever it is to calculate the distance? I think it is. In which case, yeah, you kind of stuffed on iOS, I guess. And maybe try that location stuff we just looked at. I have no idea, but every 15 minutes is not going to be enough to calculate an accurate distance. As I said earlier, like, you need lots of updates to get an accurate distance travel distance calculation.
Okay.
Right.
Moving on. I have this one's simple. I have expanded flex 2, expanded flex 8 in a row, but now I want expanded flex 2.5. You don't get that. You get to have whole numbers only. Guess what? If you multiply everything by 2, it becomes a twice as big number that now has odd numbers next to it.
Yeah, I was about to say that. You just change one to 25, change one to 75, and you're done.
Yes, exactly. They're all relative ratios. That's the thing about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the way it works is all the numbers used in the flex are added up. That's the whole amount, and then whatever fraction of that is given, that's the fraction we've used on the screen. That's how it works. So,
does that mimic the way that JavaScript did it or CSS did it? Is that why they did it that way? Maybe. I wonder if CSS only allows like integer values for their flex.
I think this has been. I don't know. Pass. I think it's more about the fact that what you don't want to do is have
fractional numbers that keep it getting added up.
Don't even get. Don't like. Just want to avoid filter if possible.
Right. Let's see here. On to the next one. Can a deferred deep linking be set up for an iOS app? Yeah, deferred. Yeah, you just have to make sure that you pass the rest of the link. Right?
Yeah, I'm interested in the case where the user doesn't have the app, downloads it, and then redirects it. Yes, you can do that. So you do that. There's actually both doors support this. It's not deferred deep linking. That's the wrong term you're looking for. It's you're looking for what's it called, an installation ID or something like that. They're both platforms call them different things. So not install tracking. Install referrer is what the Play Store calls it. So let me just bring this up just so we're talking about the same thing. So the way this, you can see here, it securely retrieve referral information from Google Play. So this is basically the referring URL that installed the package, the timestamp when it was, and you can also, there's a bunch of other stuff you can do, but the URL is like a string, so you can incorporate anything you want in there, like tokens and other things, right? Like to your heart's content. But that ends up being a deep link, right? And there is actually in the install referrer sort of API, you can actually there's actually, I think there's a wrapper for this inside of the pub stuff, right? But anyway, the point here is this is the Android API, but you get the thing, on service finished, on service disconnected. I'm sure there is one in here. I can't be bothered looking at this one. There is a similar one for iOS. Let me Google that and see. App Store sources and app referrer data now available. Don't think that's it.
Yeah, in fact, he's following up, but something exists like this for iOS. So,
I know the sorry.
Yeah, that's his follow up. Yeah, which we were answering.
Yeah, right? No, there is. I've seen it. I've used it, but it was so long ago. App installation attribute on iOS. Hang on.
Ask Gemini Advanced. It'll tell you.
I could actually ask AI and see what it comes up with, right? Let's I'm gonna see what it does. Hang on.
You have to be careful not to share your screen if you're on the advanced program. But
iOS. Yeah. What is the iOS developer feature? iOS development. feature that is similar to Google Play Store Referral.
And actually, I'm in the Google Labs experiment that I just Google for it now, and it handles it the same way as if I asked it to.
Apparently, the closest analogy would be Apple's app attribution framework, specifically focused on the attribution property of SK ad network. There you go. Purpose: both mechanisms aim to attribute app installations to specific advertising campaigns or help developers understand which marketing efforts are the most effective. Privacy focus. Key differences.
Here's a comment from the channel here. Don't think installer refer is solid on iOS, so you still have to have some user interaction.
So there's some tricks you can do with it's going to bug the hell out of me. It really is. Firebase dynamic links actually did this as well, really well. Solved this problem.
Yeah.
I know there's another question around that as well. There's a bunch of websites. This thing's coming up with a bunch of. I think Google around there is definitely a thing. But I forget what it's called. There might be some like hand wavy stuff you have to do, and what I mean by that is I'm not going to go into it now because I honestly we're not here to Google for you, right? But there's actually like an interesting yeah, this is it. Firebase have used the clipboard to copy and paste copy the link and paste it when the app opens. There you go then. Ta-da! Do that then.
Oh man, that's just
yeah. I mean, yeah. But this is the problem, is right. I think so. I'm pretty sure that there's actually another way of doing this, which I feel like I've done before, which is you use the server. So your server in your scenario is your middleman. So it opens up a link, it loads a web page. This introduces a cookie, right, or some other metadata, right? Then you're essentially storing any information server against that cookie, and then you can then get that cookie into the app, and then then you kind of like they refer back to the server to capture the data that started them. But the problem here is you're bound by the limitations of installation. Now there is another trick you can do. Actually, you just said deep linking, right? You can do deep linking, right? So there's no reason why you can't do, after successful installation, launch a deep link, right? With a custom, what's called a custom schema. And that can also provide the information to the app as well. I know there's ways of doing this, but this is not a new problem, but off the top of my head, I can tell you.
Anyway, let's move on. How are we doing on time? It's like 10:20, or hour and 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
Do you want to stop questions? So we got 4 questions still on the list. One of them might take a while. Should we cut off? Let's cut off in 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes. Okay. Yeah. So we'll stop it there.
Get your questions in now.
How do we still get the question about deprecating dynamic links? This has been an issue for a year, and it's been solved and solved and solved again, but people seem to.
What's the best alternative? Let's Google it. Alternatives to dynamic links, Firebase dynamic links.
Yeah,
you just don't need it. That's the reason why they probably removed it, because no one was using it. It did a few things. The idea was to solve. Don't get me wrong, it was helpful, right? But it was only helpful in a small use case, right? And that's I think the problem. Like small customer base. I think that's the problem. So it's a bit like you click on a link. Let's say my app. I've got an app, and then I press share data. And then when I press share data, it creates, like share with my friend on social media or whatever. It creates a link. That link goes to a website, right? If you have the app installed, it will open the app when someone taps on that link. If they don't tap on that link, it opens up the website. Then what you do is on that website, you have a install on iOS, install on Android, right? That's what most people do. And then the user go, oh, I can get the app with this. Oh, install. Or on that web page, you maybe put a brief bit about the information the person's sharing, but they can get more information or interact with their data or message their friend back or whatever if they install the app. And then you got the app install links. And this is kind of where the attribution stuff comes in, because you want to know what they clicked on to get into the app. So what this kind of, the idea is to make this kind of seamless, right? So what you don't want to have to do, right, is have the user basically install it, then go back to their friend's text message or whatever, or social media post, hit the link again, then it opens the app up. You kind of want to say, oh, they just installed it, and then it opens up the data that they've installed. So there's a couple of different ways of doing all this. Android also has what's it called? Oh, it's going to bug me. Instant apps. Is it instant apps? I think it's called instant apps, which is their way of basically automatically downloads an app for a matching deep link, runs it, but in a temporary space, and then the user gets to fully install it and keep it, or they just have it for that session and then it gets uninstalled.
Frey comment said a JavaScript triggered redirect to the store. That also works.
Yeah, and that So that is actually what Firebase deep linking would do. So it would actually go, oh, looks at the user ratio in the browser in JavaScript and goes, oh, this is a Mac, or this is iOS. Okay, I'm going to direct them to the Apple Store. Oh, this is an Android device. I'm going to direct them to the Play Store. Oh, this is a device I don't recognize. Okay, show the website, right?
Right. Anyway, there are ways. Do not worry that it's going away. It's been being announced for a year. It was never that important in the first place. Yes. But people got.
If you want to do deep links, latest versions of Flutter have it built in, right? You'll get a route change with the full link, but then you need to like handle it. Or there's app links package. It used to be called Unilinks, which gives you a lot more customization over that. Yeah, app underscore links. Okay, let me make sure that's the right one.
Yeah, app links. Yeah, definitely. It sounds like the right one.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Cool. Alrighty, next one here. Is Flutter GPU for rendering 3D models stable? No, I don't think so. Not yet, right? Can I render Blender models on the screen? If so, how? Yes. Well, maybe not you personally. Yeah.
So let me see if I can find you the link. It was released in recently. It's still not completely stable. That's why it's being worked on. Oh, because it got moved. Damn. Bear with. Why they merged the repos and now the father moved. Yeah. Crap.
Broken links. Links off to nowhere.
Here we go. The best getting started guide is this one. I'll post it in the chat. There you go.
Cool.
I'll bring it up on stream as well for those that don't know what we're talking about. Yeah, get started with Flutter GPU. It's still early days, but the Flutter scene package would literally take a model, which is the which is what you're just asking for, a Blender model, and actually just display it in your app. So that's probably what you want, the Flutter scene package, right? There you go. There's some examples of it working. Cool, right?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
If only I could draw. If only.
It's only yeah, there you go. It's literally actually hang on, bring up screen. There you go. iOS, Android supported and custom embedders, but improve on these and not supported on web.
Oh.
So
I guess it's okay.
Yeah, GLTB file. Yeah.
Yep. All right. And now our friend Gillian Killian, did you see my IRC? I presume that's something about Jasper. I have not seen it. Maybe we could figure out where it is and go visit it. I presume it's like on the Jasper homepage. We'll have the listing for it. What is an IRC of?
We'll come back to that.
We all have one other question.
See if Killian sends me a link.
I already have an answer for this one. I already have an answer for this one, but I'll say it, and then maybe Simon can correct me. But is there any way to keep a widget, keep its state even when it's removed from the widget tree? Like to call it only once. Next time you call it, still preserve its first state. I would say you don't want to do that. You don't want to preserve view calculations. You only want to preserve the model data that's going into the view. In which case, you can use providers for that, Riverpod for that. You can use stateful widget, that kind of stuff. But you don't want to preserve the calculations that make the view, because things might have happened around the widget and changed its layout, for example, change its size. There's no point in keeping that state. You only want to keep the model state. Does that make sense? Is that right?
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
I think there's going to say there's also a widget. So it depends on why you want to remove it. If it's like to remove and show it quite frequently, and you want to keep it like there is a widget called visibility, which lets you maintain the state whilst making it invisible, whilst making it not apply to layout. So you can actually have it not contribute to layout, but maintain its state. There's a bunch of stuff around that you can do. Are you there?
Yeah. Sorry, I was typing.
Sorry. No, my headphone made a weird sound. I thought. Anyway.
No.
Yeah. So visibility. There's also and part of if you look at the internal works of visibility, this is a bunch of other widgets, but one of them is offstage, which might be the widget there. Is it offstage?
Yeah.
Off screen. Offstage, I think it's offstage.
Offstage.
Anyway, but the point here is there are ways in widgets to do different things, but you're asking for a solution. Maybe you need to explain what your problem is that you're trying to solve, and then we can maybe suggest a better solution. Wait! They've just posted something. There we go. The widget is a Flutter map. Every time the screen changes, I call it later, and it starts loading all the map tiles. So here's the point there. Right, the answer there is cache your map tiles.
Yes.
Right, you should be doing that anyway. Right, so you want to look into doing that, and that the Flutter map stuff actually there is a package that actually adds caching to Flutter maps that you can literally just add, and it does that. So that's one thing you should probably be doing. And again, it depends on how your layout your screen is. But remember, you're not displaying it, but it's still taking up resources. Right, it's still instantiated. All those map tiles have loaded, but you can't see them. Right, these are all things that you need to think about. So, yeah, visibility is probably the widget that you're looking for, and then wrap it in a stack or whatever, so you can have it show and hide, or I don't know. It depends on whatever you're trying to do with your layout. But yeah,
cool.
Right. Okay.
All right. One more question, then back to the Jasper question, and then we can start live coding. What are your views on?
Use them if you want to use them. I really, it's literally just a different syntax for the same thing.
Right.
If you think it looks pretty, do it one way, do it that way. If you look pretty, do the other way, do it the other way.
I think you might have some arm wrestling in groups that want to force it to be used or force it not to be used. But other than that, it shouldn't be.
It's nothing new. We've had there's several packages that have done decorators. You can do it with extension methods.
Yeah.
You can do it in your own app yourself. There's nothing new here. It's just about them trying to, them. I say them. It's like a them versus us. No, I don't mean that. I mean, it's about the Flutter team going, okay, this is an interesting concept. Let's bring that into the framework and see how that goes. And if you notice, they're not doing it with every widget. It's just some certain things like padding and decorator and things to help make layouts easier to read, perhaps. To be honest, I'm fine with the way it is, but I've also got like 6 years, 7 years doing Flutter, so it makes sense to me the way it currently is. I wouldn't need to see it another way. But if you're coming from maybe Swift or another language that uses decorators, like is it Android, the Android one that was built off of Flutter, what's it called? Android, well, whatever it's called. If you're using that, that also uses decorators. So, you know, there's a certain side of this which is let's use decorators to make it easier for people to pull, but equally, it's better to what's the word? Interoperate between the different platforms and technologies, which can only be better for Flutter as well. I mean, let's say we suddenly go, let's do everything as decorators. All right, so what? What's the big deal?
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not
okay.
It doesn't need to be an opinion either way, to be honest. If you can, as long as you can do it both ways, then continue doing it how you want to do it.
I'm gonna wait and see if it really gains anything before I spend a lot of time learning it
And
thing too. So we have
Frey says I won't immediately use it. I like the widget tree and code to mimic the one in my inspector. Yeah, there you go. That's my personal opinion for now. Yeah, and yeah, I would say exactly the same thing. Right?
Great.
But
Okay.
we're old hats.
One last question. Is there a Flutter role market? Role market. It's a role market at Turing. What is Turing?
No idea, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, sorry. Out of our scope. Out of our scope, which means we're back to Killian's question, which is about his RFC.
So Killian posted it to me, and I can bring it up on stream. Let me do that.
I don't know where he's talking about it. So we need
so it was added to, it was a post in the Flutter forum, which I have been so absent in recently. Like I have not like read anything or done anything because I've been busy beyond belief at the moment. But new serialization protocol for Dart. So for Conan and Kotlin, blah blah blah. Dart has question. Yeah, it's not great. It has been improving, but it's still not like. I'm gonna say, is it? Yeah, there is a RC. Okay, so there's a fault. You got a repo for it. Okay, codable. Oh, this is your codable package. I seem to but you launched this codable, right? I seem to remember a package around this. This is what you were using, right? Okay, TLDR. Let's look at the TLDR, right? This RC provides a new serialization protocol with Dart, aiming to be modular, universally usable across different data formats and highly performant key points. Right, these points are every current whatever serialization thing aims for. The problem here is universally usable across different data formats. It's great. Sadly, what ends up happening, okay, maybe not this, but that universally usable thing is like, okay, great, but then anyway, separate encoding, decoding, decoding logic from data formats. Yeah, I mean, like various data formats, JSON, CSV, message pack through extension methods. Yeah, maybe. Handling of nested objects, collections, custom types, binary formats, more extended protocol, polymorphism, and generic types. I mean, I'm all for something that makes sense better, but I mean, I tell you what I think you should do here, Gideon, is add some examples in here right away, so I can see what the hell I'm talking about. I honestly, I've got no time to go hunting for a repository. Maybe I'm just being a bit. Is there some examples in here? Use cases, basic. All right, basic. Let's have a look. Is this okay? But do I? Okay, this is the person model. The thing is, self-encodable. Okay. The thing is, there's been several things to this which are similar, right? Which are, a lot more in the repo. Yeah, well, that's too late.
You read it
too
now.
Late. You want an opinion? I'm giving you an opinion. All right. So no, this is great, and there's some interesting things, right, that you see from this kind of stuff. nothing ever works everywhere, and the whole idea of code generators. Yeah, I mean, I've seen this before. I've literally seen it before where I want one model. I mean, it's about how you build the software as well. Like you want one model and you go, oh, well, this is the field name in one API we use. And then they have an XML API, which is a different kind of field name or schema or something. And then you're like, well, this doesn't then work because like you can go this route of making something universal, but normally what happens is it never ends up being like to make it universal makes it so slow because it's so flexible, right? This is kind of the trade-off that you normally do when you're doing these things. This is not me just bashing the idea. I haven't gone through it enough to really, know about it, right? I'm just saying that it's kind of interesting concepts, right? From a programming perspective, and that is, if you're doing JSON, make yourself a little JSON encoder thing and add yourself like JSON serializable does.
I'm going to suggest a deferral. And the reason I'm going to suggest a deferral on this project is we want to see macros probably handle 90% of the heavy lifting of this.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to wait. You should not consider this yet, even with Builder, until macros are in place. You can see how easy or hard it is to glue macros that can adopt and adapt any shape of Dart object to a serialization.
I was also just thinking about the fact that they also brought up data classes. I can't remember what they called it, something else, self-referential classes. I can't remember what they called it.
Right.
In the last announcement, right, in December, it was I can't remember what the name was, but basically it's like a one-line class, right? So you say class, the name of the class, and then the parameters, and it's a data model class, and then that will automatically get an equals a hash code to probably to JSON from JSON and everything else in between, probably done by the new macro stuff. So
primary construction.
but I do like the idea of RFCs, and I do like the idea of the community come together of these things. Like
thumbs up on that.
We don't really. I think I saw Luke Paghetti talk about like Flutter RFC or something, and like I think it was like a comment of now make a Flutter RFC folder in the Flutter repo. Now he's got commit access, but I mean like it's something that we should talk to the Flutter team around. Like you with most languages like PHP and other things, they start doing this where you're getting feedback from everyone as required, and you can announce these things beforehand. RFCs literally solved all of. You don't understand how many things we're depending on just talking to each other right now through this interface that is dealt with by standard IETF RFCs. Right, it's ridiculous. And without software that was made to stream this, without software on your end and the software on my end, all talking the same way with protocols, this just wouldn't happen, right? You'd be speaking. It's the same as like two people speaking to two different languages, right? And trying to communicate. It just wouldn't work, right? And so I think from a perspective of progressing Flutter in the community, RFCs are very important. It's very important for us to kind of get behind this notion of get everyone commenting, and then it also allows the Flutter team to gauge the pulse of the community on various matters and to understand what the demand is like, what the flags are like, I'll give an example of the problem that the Flutter team have, and that is they want to design a new feature, right? They come up with, we believe, this is it, the words, we believe that most users are having this problem, and this is how we're going to solve it. That's a great starting point. But it's how they perceive the product to be used, not how it's actually being used. Inside Google, I can say they have more stringent policies than this, and then they will then go get the numbers, right? Just like we saw with them gathering the numbers on the use of Android deferred components, right? They will then go, okay, prove that this is the starting point and this all makes sense, and then we can then make the changes, and then we have then a metric that we can then measure against. Did it work, or was it good? Frankly, it's how all programming should be. It's never that simple, and it's also not exactly fast, right? Because there's lots of steps involved. But it does mean that the result is good, right? Or hopefully it's good because it's been, it's been thought out. So I think that from a perspective of us doing, or the community coming together and making these remarks in places like the forum, it means that we're going to get have the upfront information that the team can then make a judgment call and go, oh wow, all the people in the community are having problems setting font sizes. We should make a better font size mechanism, right? Boom, problem solved, right? Because they've got the upfront information, they can already got that data. Now they can work on the solution. You see, but if we don't come together in open forums and say these are all the problems we're having, right, and talk about them, discuss them, then guess what? The Flutter team aren't going to know. It's like they don't read your mind, right? So
I have seen some changes that had proposals attached to them that relied on statistics from, say, crawling the entire pub looking for things. And that, I'm sure, takes a lot of work to do, but it was a great way of discovering, a couple of subtle things about the way that switch got dropped in as pattern match. Required examining millions of lines of code to see if anybody had used this other interpretation of the existing spec. And it was really amazing to see that people would do that. I kind of want to see these guys' tools. I mean, is it like the analyzer with a bunch of hooks in it? Or I kind of, okay, now I'm digressing, but I just want to say, I want grep on my code. I want a tool that I could describe a shape of something that I'm looking for in my code, like an access to a variable or a update of a variable or something, and grep it and figure out where it is in my code base. Sam, maybe someday we can just write one of those as live coding, right?
yeah, just like that.
No, you don't think so?
We'll see. Did want to post.
Okay.
I did want to post this. So this is the official design docs contributing guide, right? This also has links to the archive of design documents, and also explain that every official design document for Flutter has the design doc tag, and these are all the design docs that are floating around right now. Various things that they want to improve or change. So we can. I think there's an archive here as well of there you go, of all the ones that have gone through before, right? So these are all the ones that have happened over the last 7 years. This is like the kind of internal RFC process the Flutter team goes through, right? And they allow people to comment on, these various things. And I'm just going to click on one, and let's get rid of that. Do we have comments on here? No, but out there you go. So Dan Phil was commenting on these points at that time, right? So this is the point, right? That these are very much RFCs, and you can contribute, right? There is an effective way. So maybe once Killian's got his feedback from the community, he could start an official, design document around this. Follow the template. There is contribution guides around the template and how you do it. And then you can solicit feedback from the Dart and Flutter teams and post the link to it and everything else. And,
cool.
Link to the forum post. And this is where we need to go. We need to kind of get into this realm of doing official content. Anyway, right. That is enough back and forth.
I think we are done.
Let's see if we can do some coding, because otherwise the stream's going to go way too long. So, did anyone actually? So we had a couple of things, right? So we've got the carrying on from last time. We have some things. We've got that home page we can look at and improve. We also, I think the one we started before wasn't the size across different widgets or something. Yeah, we never did finish that off. So that's something that we ran out of time on. So, look, that's the plan.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, so we could definitely look at finishing up the last bit code we did. That was on the 8th, because we had to skip a week because we had a guest in last week. There was also watching I've got a reference here of watching an SKF-Lite file.
Yeah, how to manage it, because there's
Yeah.
no streaming access to all you can do is repeated queries, and how
Well,
to set that up in a timer and stuff.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like in that example, I necessarily wouldn't do that. I would treat the SKF-Lite as the storage mechanism and not as the update mechanism. So if you've got all your changes going through an interface, right? Then because you're in control of the interface, well, now you can have a stream on your interface that you can retrieve. So whenever like you do an update or insert, it changes something internally, you can know that that's changed and you can send an event out, right? So because if you can control the interface to the database, then you can just do your own streams from it, right? It's the question is, does it get accessed from externally, and then it becomes a different problem, right?
Yeah, the thing about SQLite is that you could actually have two different apps both talk to it in the same documents directory.
Yeah.
And then you would need some sort of coordination. SQLite is smart enough to do the right file locking at the operating system level to let it signal any other accessors that there's some write operation pending. But that's just something you'd have to detect, and then we wouldn't be able to do optimistic updates because we'd have to, something could change out from under us.
I would go so far as to say that becomes an SQF-like problem and not an application level problem.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd say if you're trying to do that, you're probably using the wrong utility.
Yeah.
But the only other way is polling it, but then now you're polling and you're having keeping state inside your running application to see if it matches the state of the database. I mean, it's just it's nasty.
I get it.
Right. Shall we
throw that one away? Yes.
Shall we? What should we do? How about we take a few minutes interlude? How's everyone doing? Okay, so time for a water break. Everyone should go drink some water. There you go.
Yes, good plan.
Right. And I'm gonna put some hold music on for 5 minutes.
Yes. I'll be right back.
Take a minute break.
I'll be right back. Yes.
Right. Let me see if we can find a banner. Hang on. Yeah, let's put this on there. There you go. Coding in 5 minutes. Right. Go take a break and we'll be back. Gotta find the button.
Where's the button?
There it is.
Yeah.
Right, we're back. Are we back? We're back. So let's get the screen share going. I just realized I started coding out and I wasn't sharing, and I was like, oh, do you know what? We should just get back to it. Right.
Okay. What are we doing?
Right, I'm going for Solomon's code here, the ones we looked at earlier. Let's treat that as our
layout tips and tricks.
We can get this all.
Layout tips, tricks. First, we need to take all the images and replace them with placeholders, right?
Probably. I just brought the code in. So I just took it from the GS post, and there was I brought in the 2 packages he was using, and then we've also got there's a separate bit of code that he didn't post, which was which was a build drop down tab. So I'm just going to invent the function myself, and then
why not?
We can then go fix it. So
let's ask Copilot to do it. Here, given these parameters, Copilot, can you come up with code?
Yeah. Right. So pop-up menu. Oh, it's pop-up button, isn't it? Pop-up menu button. I'm trying to remember what one asks for what now. Item builder. One of them. Pop-up menu. Yeah, pop-up menu button. It is that. Let's use that. Pop-up menu button. It is that one. Okay. And then what do we need? What are the required parameters for this? Item builder. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. What is it actually made of?
We have like an item count. There must be initial value. Okay, so we've got initial value. Well, that's not like really. No, it's not really the same thing, is it? Did someone post a second file in there? I missed that. Let me just double check. No. I mean,
yeah, if you're still around, can you update your?
Yeah, that's one. That would be one thing.
Solomon, can you update your?
In the meantime, let's see if we can do this a bit differently. I feel like there's I could see something else. Hang on. Let me find what I'm looking for. I think there's actually a different one. Hang on, let me find it. Oh, is it pop-up menu? Hang on. It is pop-up menu. It is the one I was thinking of. Okay, good. Right. So this is the one we want to use. Question is, how do we use it? Right. Here's the docs. Updating to menu anchor is preferred for applications that configure to use Material 3. Oh, okay, there you go. So it's saying, so it's basically suggesting that we should not be using pop-up menu, but actually menu anchor. So yeah, so initial value, selected value, item builder. And this is what's returning back the oh yeah, because the item builder returns back the list of items. So this should just be a case of doing this. Right. Okay, cool. And apparently that's all you need. That obviously doesn't make sense to me. You know, a child text. And we'll just put label there, I guess. And we'll stick some padding around it. That'll do for now. Right. It's just to get us to the point where we can actually run this thing, right?
Yeah, Solomon, if you have the code for that one function that we're missing, that would be great.
It was a build drop-down tab. If you want to post the code for that in your gist in a separate file, go right ahead. Otherwise, I'm just going to continue my janky one.
Yep.
Which whatever solves it for now.
He will.
I'm going to try and run this on desktop. So we need a main function. Run app. So home page itself is just a safe area. So I want this in a material app.
Probably. You won't get directionality and crap. Some of your text things will work.
That'll do for
It's
now.
amazing. I'm gonna have to go through that someday and go through what is actually in Material App. I bet that.
Oh, I've done it a few times. We could actually do that at some point. But yeah, so in general, it actually backs onto a thing called Widgets app, which is the underlying concept between the two. Oh, he's updated it apparently. Let's see. Do we have a? Look, was I close? You don't need a selected handler. Yeah, I was. I'm gonna say I was close.
Okay.
Or is this going to complain? Oh yeah, no, this is complain that the image doesn't exist, which is correct. All right. So let's disable breakpoints for a second. Hey, look. It's healthy, happy pets. Start here. All right. So we're going to.
Do the pets actually start there? I wonder if the pets are supposed to be using this site.
Shush. Right. I'm going to change this to a placeholder. And then actually I'm going to wrap that in a. This is logo, but I'm going to wrap that with a sized box. There we go. So just to get rid of that error, we're not going to get in the logs, hopefully. Restart. Oh, we have another image. Banner. Banner 5, where are you? Okay, so this is just a background covering image. If you want to post the images, Solomon, I'll stick the images in there. But, I don't think it's going to look as nice without them. So, your choice.
Isn't Banner the name of the Hulk guy?
I think there's an image that goes behind this section here. But that's fine. Hey, look, now we get our menus.
Right.
So let's have a look at let's go have a look at this. So I'm just going to take this function and replace the one I made, which should pretty much be identical, close to it. And there we go. So now we get a white text with it, with the menu like this. Right. Cool. I'll put that there for now. Right. So what we're doing, we were going to say, let's go through the code base and see where we're at. And then, so at the moment, when I resize this is actually having to rebuild everything, right? And here's an example of where it fails, right? Look, it gets too small. Oops. I'm getting overflow errors. Why am I getting overflow errors? This should never occur, right? A web page should be able to, web app should be able to hold any size, right? I shouldn't get overflow errors here either.
Right.
So there are ways to solve that. And we can start working on those now, right?
Break
first of all,
layout builder.
First of all, I'm assuming. Well, let's just have a look at this first of all. Let's start by fixing the issues that are currently highlighted, and then we can then go through and split out the widgets. I mean, do a bit of refactoring work and clean things up, and then we can solve the layout issues, right?
Cool.
I think this. Is everyone finding this interesting? Are people going to find this interesting? Hopefully. Right. So this is warning because you've got a public homepage class, but private state class, which means you need to actually use the public interface, right? That's what it's complaining about there. And yeah, this is just me formatting, like, you can choose whatever format you want. This is just what I've got in my rules. Really interesting. Good.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I'm
interesting.
Right, and then I'm going to fix up all the text because I have some rules that set single quotes, but for all intents and purposes, yeah.
So what we're doing is taking existing code that's making a home page for a website, and we're fixing it by getting rid of things like media query and a few other things that aren't recommended.
So I'm going to add those training commas in. We see how the layout kind of tidies up a bit. We'll go top down, I think, right? So we'll leave the device width. Well, first of all, this should be size of, as I mentioned earlier. This will get the size. And this means this widget is now only registered to rebuild the size on the size change. We actually don't want this, but at least that's slightly more efficient than what was there before, right? Yes. Let's see what else we've got. App bar. So this
answer to this one is no. Don't use that package.
Yeah, there is an alter size text package that was asked that was being used, and that's what it was being used, but I wouldn't say we need to use it. This is interesting because the height device height times 0.3 would be a third of the screen, but that's not what I'm seeing in terms of height being used, because I think the scaffold and app bar has its own preferred size, which is going to be the toolbar height, in addition to the preferred size height here. So I'm not sure what relation this actually had in the original. Now look at this, because it would never be a third of the height of the screen. Right. So I'm just going to remove that from the thing here, and we'll come back to whatever that is. Right. So background of the app bar. This is this brown, right? So as we said earlier, we could take out this. Oh, look, there's another background color. What's that? So look, what does it look like with? All right, so that's white-ish gray. All right, so let's take these two colors, and so a simple way of doing like your own custom theme is say like what was this called? Dog food. I know, dog food app theme. There you go. Right. There you go. And we can make this a final class. Static const. Background color for the app is this kind of gray, white, whatever. And then we have a app bar color, right? Well, congratulations.
9 months.
So now we've kind of got a class that defines this. It's just naming, right? It's just nothing more than just naming it. But it does mean that when you read the code, it's slightly more easy. I'll skip past it. Yeah, there it is. So the background color of our app bar is going to be dog food theme app bar color, right? Oops, if I get it right, there we go. We'll get rid of these. And already that, that already feels better, right? We can understand what it is. Now we could say app bar brown color, right? Now it's even more, and we can see we've got a little example there, and that maybe has more conducive relationship to what we're reading, right? So the idea here being that there's two. Hang on, let's minimize those minimize these for a second so we can see it all. So there we have our title, which is the content in our app bar, is main axis alignment space between a spacer and then the 3 items, which doesn't make quite much sense because there shouldn't.
That's a lot of space.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you could not just that. You could just do end and get rid of the spacer, right? It's the same thing. There you go. Hasn't changed, right? Just aligning them to the end. So, also, I mean, we'll come back to this in a minute, but there's a few different ways of handling that. As the end, we've got the child with the content. We don't need to pass the context over, so we'll get rid of that. I'm going to assume that is this a footer? Best selling point widget. Okay, that's selling point widget. So the thing is, Solomon, do you expect something to be pinned to the bottom, or do you want the whole content to scroll? I think that would be my next question here. Let's best seller widget is nothing, so we're just going to get rid of them. Well, we could put a blank widget in. All right, maybe
a little placeholder.
Maybe. Well, I'm just yeah, but I also maybe think maybe it's time to start extracting these things out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. So let's make a best seller widget. There you go. That's just a container for the moment. Oh. And then what's this one? Selling point widget. All right, there you go. Yep. Selling point widget.
Do you typically name your widgets so they end in widget, or do you not really care?
I'm just following what he had.
Okay.
But to me, I don't particularly put widget at the end. It depends on what I'm doing, I guess. Yeah, it just depends on what I'm doing.
I kind of sometimes use screen for something that's a full screen, and pane for something that's part of a screen.
But that's about just naming convention, right? So
yeah,
I normally have screen for like a full screen thing. Maybe if I'm doing a website web page, it'd be page instead of screen.
Yeah.
Section, whatever you know. Again, half the problem with programming is naming stuff, because you need to have a whole dictionary of a name for basically the same thing, just so you can determine the difference between things. Yeah. So this is so we got selling point as a function. This is one of these things here, right? With a box. Yeah. It's icon. Hang on a minute. The white. The box is white and the icon's white? Huh?
It's a polar bear in a snowstorm. It's not just white.
Sorry. It's, just got me confused there. So selling point widget, best seller widget. And you can see it literally is like a function, but now the platform can now cache these properly and do things with them, right? There we go. Look, I've got the icons now. Let's change that. Let's take that white background off. I don't think we need a black background either. Let's get that color off. We don't need the container. Oops, when did that size come from?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
I needed
so that's
to put
better.
the icons, but they weren't showing up. Yeah, it was testing with white.
Okay. Well, they're there, so so okay, so that's kind of cool. So we've got this repeated pattern here. So this is let's make a widget here and call it unique selling point item, or maybe selling point item. Selling point item. Yeah. And we'll pop that in there. And these become the parameters for the widget, right? So these go into here. Feel free to ask questions, everyone, about any points that we're doing, or
I'm answering a couple of the questions there. So and maybe you can just answer offhand. Minimum window size can we set that for web and set that for apps and stuff?
There is ways, and that's the way I'm gonna
yeah.
I'll show you.
That's what I said too. That's what I said.
There are ways.
There are ways. Yes.
This is the way.
I don't know if there's an abstract way of doing it for all platforms yet.
So here's me just converting this. Like, see, look, exactly the same, but not a function, no widget, right? So we've got the parameters, passing them in, and we're using them. What you can do in this case, what I would probably be doing for the selling point thing is have selling point widget, have a file selling point, whatever, have this in it, and then I would have this item be a private widget. So I'd prefix this with an underscore, and that way you can't use the selling point item outside of this selling point widget, right? Now what you could do is you can take this one step further, and then you could actually pass into this selling point widget the list of icons and text, right? And by doing so, you've now made a widget that you can reuse anywhere, not just for specific selling points, right? So then I would probably start renaming it something like brown options bar or whatever, right? Anyway, do we actually have this color elsewhere? Is that the same brown? I think it is, right? Oops. Yes, at bar brown color. It's used in a few places. All right, so let's grab that color. And it's no longer just at bar brown color. This is maybe app or theme brown color. There you go. Let's get rid of that
Brown
one.
app color.
What was that? There was a tongue twister on it. How brown now owl or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Right. Where was it? I've even forgotten what that color was now. So that's great. Right. This one. Right. We're also going to show you a good example. I'll show you a good example in just a second once I've done this of how using a record makes sense for that kind of widget, right? Anywhere else? Nope. All right, good. All right, back to where we were. So yeah, so what we're going to do now is has setting point take a final list of record. So you have parentheses to show record. We'll call it items, right? And then each item is going to have we need to have an icon, which is the icon data, and then string text, right? Which is basically the parameters that we pass in here, icon and text, right? I need that because it's private. So we can do this, and this will work. And then we need to say that this is going to have items as a parameter. And instead of our little children here, we can now say for final item in items, have one of our widgets. Now I'm going to grab these because I'm going to put them outside first before I lose them. So let's go up to where we're actually using them here. Items. And we're going to do this. I'll come back to that in a second. We'll come back to that in a second, right? So now I can get rid of these two. So for each one in the loop, we want to get one and do item.icon and item.text.
I think you made them positional.
No, I know that. That's what I was getting to. And then we put curly braces in to make it named.
Okay.
There you go. Now we've got that. Now we've got a generic widget, right? So this is like, I would call it setting point widget, whatever, right? But the point here being now we've got that, right? So if we go back up to where we were, where are we? Say where we were. There we go. So now setting point widget items, and we've got these items. It's not that one. It's that one. There we go. So here's the thing. When you read the outline, looking at this, you're going to see the web page, right? You're going to see it because you can go, oh, look, it's set point items with these items. You haven't hidden that in the widget, right? You've also made the widget a little bit more generic so you can reuse it. Obviously, you need to pick and choose the right moments to use this, but here's a good example of where this can be valid. Okay, and at the moment we've been refactoring. Nothing's changed on the output because we're just refactoring it. We're tidying it up, right? All right, let's keep going. So so that's the setting point item. And what else? So I said about I did say about these size boxes. You can have these in a separate file, but I just want to show you. I'll put them at the top here. You can just have a const. What is this one? This is horizontal margin 4. Is that right?
Before you get too much further, I just want to you whizzed right by a really important point about refactoring and about code design and things like that I just want to make sure gets emphasized. Is that you want to, when you have something where you got a lot of chunks that look like it's copy pasted down along like that, what you want to do is move it so that the code captures the similarities and the data describes the differences. And so that's kind of the way you want to pull the code apart, so that anything that's the same over and over again should be in code once. And then you pass the data in appropriate shapes for that code to actually act on. That's a really important factor in refactoring and optimizing your code. Once I learned that role, everything was different. Game changer. Making some more consts.
So just going to show you know, I actually prefer to put 0.0 on float, so then at least I know that variable is a floating point variable. But
8 instead of 16.
Oh, where? Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Thanks.
Second pair of eyes, always helpful in pair programming.
Oh, we're working on a live system. You do 4 eyes. Have 2 people looking at wherever you're changing, so you don't make a mistake.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you can see here like padding and vertical padding, and we could do some other ones. And so these now can be reused everywhere, right? So if I go down, well, we have, let's keep this going. We'll go down. We'll start putting maybe some more ones in, but let's see. So here, this becomes horizontal padding 16. Look how much that makes sense now, right? Like, you've just named this thing. You don't have to have it, you know, where you were using it, for example, right? So we'll come back to styles in a minute. We'll come back to the spacing as well. Let's put that. We got some buttons, blah blah blah. Okay, so now we got the tabs. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of things, right? So let's make a little to-do list, and then we can make sure that we're at least kind of addressing some key points. So we've done some nice things there. So what do we want? We want to talk about minimum. Oh my god, I can't spell. Minimum size. Page size. Let's call it minimum page size. Page scrolling, right? Overall scrolling of content. What else do we want to talk about? Yeah, I think there's sizing content. I guess sizing content as well. Dynamically sizing content. Maybe that's the word. Dynamically sizing content. I think that's about it for now. So let's it's all kind of interrelated, but let's deal with this device height, device width thing. Goodbye. Goodbye. Right, now let's fix what's broken. So I'm actually interested. Do you know what? Actually, before I do that, let me just fix up a little bit. Let's fix up this drop-down tab, because that is a function, and a home page widget. Let's pull these out at least, and then I think we're done with refactoring. Right. Home banner widget. Right, this actually depends on the device height. So yeah, we're going to get rid of this, and we'll put a vertical spacing in there for the moment, vertical margin, and we'll set up a slightly larger one. We'll do a 24. A little thing you can do, by the way, is you can actually, like, obviously put multiple. It says copy the wrong thing. We can actually put like multiple next to really want like a larger space, or with the paddings, those so it's horizontal padding. And I can do that, and now I've got 32 padding. You can just add them together. So
yeah,
I don't know if with any edge inserts we have got a couple. So this is on the shop now button. Yeah, okay. So this is just adding padding to the button. So vertical 16. So we can actually say horizontal. Let's do horizontal padding 24 plus vertical padding. There you go. So you can do that kind of thing. How do you manage helpers like the paddings, for example, in a personal package, use group projects? I don't normally do a package because it's just so simple, right? Like it is just 20, 50 lines, stick it in a file, away you go. It could also be that on a project they have different grid system, right? In which case they're going to have different numbers. But yeah, for the most part, I don't go crazy. Let's try not to. Right, that's like a greeny black. Okay, we'll make that primary button color, text color. Okay. What did I break? There it is there. Really? This is the I broke because I've got the code broken above. It's not going to look it up, so I'm just going to. I can't remember the name of the class now. Where is it? Yeah. Right. Let's see. So now what we're just missing is the device height for that. So this again, this is the difference. Here's the difference. We got the home banner producing the content, but what size is that banner? Do we want the banner to say it's always going to be this height going out, or is it? Are we saying that we want the outside page to say it should be this height? Right. In this case, I feel like there's both could have relevance. It depends on how you lay out the page. But in this case, as we said earlier, we want to monitor the height, but we only want the height to be to only update this one widget. We don't want to rebuild everything, right? So we're going to get rid of this infinite width. Don't need that. This can now be a sized box, right? We can wrap with a decorate box, and we'll move our decoration down as well. It's going to complain that it doesn't have one, so we'll just give it a blank box decoration for now, just as a placeholder, right? The height we want to be 35% of the screen. Now we're missing there's a widget that I prefer to have, which is a simple widget to have, and I want to show you guys this. So let's build one. It's called I call it a child builder. And it's basically the same as builder widget, right? But it has a child parameter. That's as simple as that. So I'm just going to copy this because I can. Been ultra lazy. Right. So here's that. And then we say this.child. Widget child. When you see this, you'll be like, this makes sense. And then there is a builder which has a child parameter, which is transition builder, I think. Yeah. There we go. I'm going to switch out that builder for that. Yeah, and it can be nullable. There you go. So this now child builder widget, which should be in everyone's. I don't know why it's not the framework. I've been meaning to push it to the framework or something similar. However, this is really helpful in this exact situation, which is quite common. Now we're going to put this child builder in here, and we're going to have our decorated box and everything with it be the child. And this a little bit quick refactoring. So what we've now done is we've got a child builder with a builder function and then a child parameter. Now this decorate box and the entire content therein of the banner is going to be built once when the homepage banner widget is built. However, if I want this banner to represent its size by the size of the screen, then I need the size box to rebuild when the size of the screen changes. So now what I can do is in here put size media query dot size of context, right? Now what's happening is the context of the child builder is the thing that actually gets rebuilt when the size of the screen changes, not everything in the entire web page, right? If I go into the child builder, it does run this build method. But if you notice, the child is being passed in. None of the constructors get run. Yeah, none of that code gets run, doesn't have to calculate anything. It's just handled the existing object. So now we can say size.height 35, right? So in doing that little pattern, it means that now only the banner size box widget is going to be rebuilt when the size changes, right? Yeah, and we need to do some refactoring before we can use it. Let's go up. Where is it? I have lost it. Homepage banner. There it is. Right. Restart. And there it is. It hasn't really changed, right? So great. Whoop-de-doo. Right. Next. And then drop down menu. So we got this kind of pop-up drop down, right? So this kind of goes to the same thing. Build drop down tab. Let's pull that out. And make a drop down tab. What it was called. Oops. And that can kind of go in there. Right. So we got title and items, which we're going to change a little bit. So it's great to say pop-up menu item entry, but that's what it needs to return, but it's not what we need to hand to our widget. So in here, we can now say items, do something like, for same thing we did before, item in items, right? And then in here, we can make a pop-up menu entry with whatever parameters we need. This way, we don't have to keep rebuilding them over and over like you've done up here, right? If they're all going to have the same style and they're all going to have the same thing, but just a different value or whatever, then that's fine. Let's do that. So let's put one down here as an example. So we need value, text, and that's it, right? Because this is the color. What color is this? Okay, is that the same brown? Or it's very close to. And it's similar. All right, static const. Menu pop-up brown. I don't know. Menu brown color. There. Cool. Back down to where we were. So this is going to be changed for menu brown color. Yeah, that's better. And that was in the theme. What was it called? Dog. Sorry for the up and down. Get there eventually. Right. And then item, we want the value to the string, and then we want label, title, text, context. Right. So now this becomes, remember what we did before? I'm going to have string text, string value. Yes. And then on selected, we'll also have that. We'll have a value changed callback with a string on selected. Right, why is this complaining? Invalid const, yeah, because it's not const. Yeah. Dope. Yeah, put it in there. Anyway, right, so that looks good to me. Now we have a drop-down tab widget. Let's go up here. And we're going to replace these drop-down tabs, right? So drop-down tab widget, we don't need to pass the context. This becomes title, then items, and an item is a value and text. Let's keep going. Value, text. Right, what we're missing? Unselected. Oh yeah, let's have that. Stick it at the top. It's not, I mean, it's just nice to have things like laid out the same. I don't have to move these, but it's just good practice, right? So that I'm always know where things are always listed in the same order, so it's easier to find things, right? In this case, it's quite common to have the things that change the display in the widget tree be the last item or the last parameter in your constructor for your widget, i.e. the child parameter or children parameter. So in this case, what's kind of common is to have the things that, in this case, the items be the display thing, and any functional parameters be preluded before that. But it's just convention, and it's nothing more than it's nice. Right. Now we can have an on-selected function. Let's put that up in here. On menu item selected, item value, and now that function can be passed in place of that. And this can be added to the rest of them as well, which we're going to get to now. So quickly do these. See how quick we can get this done. Value text, value text, value text. Oh, items. Okay, there you go. That's a bit better. Oh. All right.
Yay.
That was a bit of refactoring work, but look, that already feels so much better to read that, right? Like, and all that other stuff that was in there that, you know, this makes so much more sense to read. Right. All right. Let's restart. And guess what? Nothing changed.
Can the records be cons? The records can be made cons too, right? In the item list. Isn't it all constable?
Sorry, the references in
the records in the
these
say const, yeah.
Yeah, they can, yeah. I don't know why it's not recommending it, but yes.
That's weird. Yeah, I was thinking you should have little flags or something.
I may need some analysis options that are changing this. It's just a demo project, right? So.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah. So if we're down there. Right. Okay, so let's see now. Where are we at? So
Solomon had a comment here. Getting the concept, try to compile repetitive parts of the code into single variables or something for simplicity. Yeah. This is what programming is all about.
If you have repetitive code, then that's a good example of where a function is required, or in this case, a widget, because that's again the whole point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we should get the print out now. So if I go into debug, make it clear.
A widget is just a function that wants to show off.
There you go. Item where team phone. There you go. So we're going to kind of go into this a bit more. Right. Okay. So now we've done this. What was the next thing on our list? We wanted to talk about, that was a bit of refactoring work. It was dynamically sizing content. All right. Let's sort this out. So we did do that with the banner. Now, where else do we use these variables? Let's drop these variables out and see if we use them anywhere else. Hey, look at that. We didn't need to do that. There you go. So now, as you can see, that now we've done that, we removed that from the top level. We're no longer rebuilding a bunch of the widgets unnecessarily, right? Okay. Right, that's that piece done. All right, page scrolling. Right, at the moment, we get this happen, right? There's lovely overflow and stuff. We need to figure this out, right? We don't want this to happen, right? And we want it to scroll. Frankly, yeah, this is definitely not good. So there's some actually benefits to this layout. So, well, to sort this layout out. So, first of all, let's get rid of the scaffold. Scaffold is there to make a material app widget. It's not there to make a website. It's not doing you any favors. So we're gonna make this a column. There you go. And it's gonna have some children. Our first child is going to be an app bar. There you go. Let's grab the app bar. App bar. That's funny. And then we can then have these other widgets. Look at that. Bosh. And then we can get rid of all of that. Right. So now we've got one column for the entire piece of content. Hit save. Yay. Now we're going to wrap our column with a piece of material to give it our background surface. There you go. Now it's the same as essentially what it was before. So our app bar, we're gonna make some changes to our app bar. So the app bar widget again, you're going around you're doing all this to kind of work against what the app bar wants to do, right? Let's just make the thing that you want it to be. So let's call this. So stateless widget. Page top bar. There you go. And a page top bar for us is going to be a square widget with a gesture detector, which is going to be the logo, right? So in a row, funny enough. So we're going to have a row, and we'll put our gesture detector in there. And I want this to be always square. Oh, you don't have to. I'm just saying that that's what I want to do on this. We also want the background to be this brown color. Okay, great. Let's do that then. We could wrap this in a decorator. In this case, I'll do another piece of material and we'll give it color. Bosh. There's also color box is slightly more performant, but it depends on what you're trying to do. Splashes only go to the material, so you might need to flip this out, but we'll leave it like that for now. All right. And then we have the title, which actually has this row, which has all these options in. So let's grab that row out there. And then we'll go into our row in here, pop that in. There we go. And we got our on menu selected. So we'll need to, funny enough, pass that in. So we'll have the same thing. If we go into our on selected, let's grab the type for that. Pop it back into here. On menu item selected. Oops. Right.
Required.
So you start seeing,
Required.
Yeah.
Lots of eyes.
That's spelled right.
Yeah.
Why is it not? Okay, weird. Right, so now we've done that. App bar's not needed. Let's get rid of that and put our page top bar in there with our parse over on our callback on menu item selected. There you go. All right, and then inside here we'll have a spacer between the logo and the rest. Hit save. Da, 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 da. We broke it. Let's have a look. Restart.
You got a spacer in a column, so it's going to be full height.
No, it's space in a row. This should be fine.
In a row. Okay,
it's fine. It's because we want. No, that should be fine. Hang on. This might be a cross-axis issue, but it's not giving me what I want. See, this is the annoying thing. Now it's not giving me. It's basically just throwing up a bunch of crap. So let's get rid of the page app bar. We're going pretty sure it's that, but let's take it out. Okay, so I remove the widget. It's definitely this widget that's causing it, right? So we can break it down. So we actually want, this is in a column, right? So we need to have a defined height. So we're gonna wrap this in a little intrinsic height. Yeah, okay. So somewhere it was trying to. I think it was the aspect ratio. Yeah. So if I get rid of the aspect ratio, this would have and had the image be square or fixed size, then it would have been different. But let's not go there for the minute. Right. Let's get back to where we actually want to be here. Right. So our drop down tabs, as we can see here, the touch target is quite small. So we actually want our menu items to have padding. So let's do that. And we can now do, we've got all. So we've got all padding. No, we haven't. Let's do vertical padding, 8, and horizontal padding 16. Okay. Great. What's the problem? Clear. Restart. Oh, interesting. Okay, it's complaining about the overflow, but actually is actually working fine. Okay. So why is my padding not there? I'll put the padding. Did I put the padding on the wrong thing? I think I put the padding on the items rather than on the actual, which is interesting, but not what I wanted. Where are we? Oh, look, width 4. This should be vertical margin. No, is that vertical? Horizontal margin 4. Yeah. Within more size box. Hang on. All right with that. All right. Okay. So let me go back down to my menu. Sorry, where was I? Was it above here? Below? Here. Right. Let's get this again. Let's remove that padding. And it should be around the row. My bad. There we go. Okay. So they look a bit better now. We could actually
Yeah.
We could bring the horizontal padding down. And a 4. Right. And we're gonna simulate the logo being larger. Now, there's a reason why I'm not fixing a height on this, right? And that is if someone sets their web page font size up, then you want that top bar to grow bigger because the text gets bigger and you don't want it getting clipped off, right? So you don't fix heights. You let the layout be dynamic. In this case, I did say I want it to be square, and that's where the original problem came from. The actual widget itself, we can talk about. Well, let's talk about this. Wrap with the size box. This is just because I don't have an image here to work with right now. So let's say the image is 48 by 48. In fact, you can do size box dot square. You know, dimension 48. Right. Now let's make it up to 64. And as you can see, as the logo gets bigger, so does the height of the top bar, right? That wasn't going to happen with the app bar that we had before because app bar works differently. So we had a bigger logo. We have a bigger app bar, right? It's very dynamic in the way it works, right? Now, interestingly, the same goes here for the size. So if I go to our drop-down tab and change our font size to something ridiculous, right? I don't know, 32. Well, we've overflowed on a different problem here, but let's make that. All right, let's. I just want to show this as an example, and these are what you need to do to test it out, right? So let's just put this down to 24, right? So now if I go back to the text size and we up that to 24, you'll see now the bar gets larger to incorporate the higher font size. Anyway, right. Now we can solve for the fact that when that gets too big, we want them to wrap properly, right? So I think we'll do that. So
I was just suggesting you could use a wrap here, right?
This is exactly the widget to use. So we've used a run. We just switched it out for a wrap. Which is interesting. That's changed the height, but we can look into that. But now what's going to happen is if I go and change the font size, let's do. See, that's interesting. So now what's happening here? The wrap doesn't have defined width because the spacer. So we actually need this to be expanded and then get rid of the spacer. There we go. So now it's going to take up the right-hand side rather than the spacer taking up the space, right? So now the wrap takes up everything on the right-hand side of the logo, and it will wrap as it's doing here appropriately, right? That's interesting. Right, anyway. So if we go back down to our drop-down text and we make the text smaller, say 35, let's keep going, 28.
No. It's not unwrapping.
Not going to unwrap when I want it to, is it? Of course it's not. Right. So this is actually a separate problem. This is the fact that this needs to wrap in intrinsic width.
I gotta say, this is me every day. I don't know how you've avoided it most of the time in live coding, but this is me every day.
There we go. So it gets larger. Let's get larger still. 32, and then we go 36.
Overflow.
And there you go. Now it wraps,
oh,
right?
Yay! Hey, what did you do differently?
56, and it'll wrap again, and then eventually we'll get to a point where it wraps into 3 lines. Right, there you go. Perfect. But when it's 18, we want it on the right-hand side, right? So let's go back to our where we use our drop-down tab, and we want to set the main axis alignment, isn't it? Something like that. Alignment, wrap alignment dot end. Sounds right. There you go. Done. So now, if I make this bigger, it stays on the right. And if I make it smaller, it'll wrap to multiple lines. There you go.
Woohoo! Woohoo! Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect.
We're getting there. We're getting there. So now I'm going to make that logo more practically sized.
What did we do before wrap? I mean, really.
Give it some padding as well.
Actually, wrap is was there on day 1, I think. I never noticed it.
Yeah, it's always been there, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right, where was he? Right. So that's our drop-down tabs done. Yeah, I like that. With our tabs, they're in a wrap. Our bar is nice. We've got a page top bar. That's good. All right. So homepage banner widget. So let's work out what's going on here with this. Why on earth is it doing this? Why on earth is it doing this? Right. This is just weird. So let's figure this out. So homepage banner is saying its height to be size height 35. But actually what we want to be doing is, so when you set the height, what you're actually doing is setting the minimum and the maximum height. What we actually want to be doing is setting the minimum height. Sorry, the maximum height, right? So it's always going to be 35%, but if the content needs to be bigger, it will allow for it. And that's the bit that we're missing. And that is called a constraint box.
Ooh.
And we do box constraints. And what we want is a minimum height of this value, right? There you go. Save. Ta-da! Right.
Oh.
So now it'll get bigger, but it will never get smaller, right?
Yes.
Okay. We also want to at least have some padding on both sides, but that's more about us in here adding a let's say a vertical 24. There we go. Right. So now it'll get bigger, won't get smaller. All right. So now we've done that. How do we deal with the fact that it now wants to overflow and does not want to scroll? And also how, oops, let's minimize that. How we also get problems when we make it too small. Yeah. So two things, scrolling and minimum size. Right. So funny enough, let's address this with let's call it, should we call it a page widget? I can't say it now. Let's call it page layout. I don't know, let's call it page layout. And what we can do is we're going to say a page layout represents these things. And it's going to have a series of children, right? So it's going to have a list of widget called children. And this is basically your top level widget, right? So we're going to have a column and we're going to pass children over. Now we didn't see, now we, by breaking this down like this, we're dealing with different concepts, right? We're, what's the, there's a name for that. Yeah. So if I replace this, we can remove our material widget, remove, let's do that for the column. Okay, so now our home page looks like a page layout with a page top bar, with this, with that, with the other, and it's all flowing. It's all making sense that you can read it. It's not just a bunch of widgets all over the shop, right? And that's just us making widgets out of these things. All right, so now we've got this page layout. What can we do to page layout to accomplish the goals that we're looking for, right? So first of all, we want it to scroll. So we're going to wrap our column with a single child scroll view in this case, right? Yippee. Now when it gets too big, we can scroll it. Look, it scrolls with my mouse. It's not very smooth on Windows because I don't have like smooth scrolling turned on in here. And we can do it, but I'm not going to bother right now. Equally, we can do drag to scroll. We can turn that on. There's a way of doing that. But right now, it makes no difference what one. But now it scrolls, right? That was simple. We're going to add our cross-axis alignment set to stretch, which is another good thing to do in this case, right?
It should be default, yes.
Yeah, which should be the default, as I always say.
Yep.
We do have a couple of interesting ones here. So that is just centering vertically because of what we got there. Horizontally, though, there's some interesting things, right? Because that, see, that's the auto size text doing its thing, which is kind of interesting. But I wonder what happens if we put this in a stretch. Does it? Well, I know that's going to happen, but let's not worry about that for a minute. I'm going to go way off topic here otherwise. So let's just check we're good on other things. We're good on other things. All right, back to page layout. All right, so we've got a single child scroll view. So the general gist of what I'm saying is that we have content that continues further down the page, right? So whatever it is, and then this is going to scroll. So I've just doubled it up just so we can something more to go on. I'm going to double it up a couple more times. Why not? There you go. So there we go. So we can put something to scroll now. Let's wrap that with a column. And then I'm going to, what am I going to do? Yeah, I'm going to wrap that in a stack. Oh, I don't know why there's never been a wrap stack. I just ended up doing row and convert it because why? Placeholder. I'm just doing this. Just you'll see. Yeah. Well, that's annoying. That's not what I want. I want this to be the width. There's no pass through. There we go. That's what I want. Right. All right. So I just want to put like an X over the repeat content, just as a way of. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. It doesn't scroll. Why have I lost my scroll?
Oh no.
Okay, it scrolls again. Okay, I don't know. There's some bug with the hot reload or something. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I just want to put like an X over the repeat content just as a yeah, just so we can see that. Right. Okay, so now we've got this thing. We want to set minimum size. That was what we want to do. So there's a widget for that. So let's where's my top level widget? I'll find it in a minute. Here, page level widget. So first of all, I'm going to set the color of the background to be theme. What do we call it? Dog theme, not brown.
Dog something.
Color.
Yep.
That looks cool. Fine, let's do that. And then around our material, I don't really think you need it. I'm going to remove save. I don't need that. We're going to do something that's probably, is that going to break anything? No, it's not going to break anything. So we're going to have a layout builder. I'd probably go the room of going down a custom render object in a minute for this, but let's just see where we get to. So this is going to give us our page limits, and then we want to wrap our material box in a constraint box. Actually, can we do this a different way? Maybe. Let's have a look. It's been a while since I've used this. Max fit to Photoshop. Okay, that might actually work. Let's have a look. Let's set the minimum at 320 and minimum height at 400 or something. I don't know. Let's see what happens. And make it smaller. Ooh, interesting. Well, that wasn't what I was expecting. Why do I have a feeling that feels like it's an actual bug in Flutter? We'll keep going. Keep going. Alignment.
Did you try a full restart just in case? Nope.
I'm honestly, I'm a bit. What is the initial error? Is this all the same thing? Fortunately, it had non-normalized height constraints. That's interesting. It basically means it's laying out larger than its child, but that's the whole point of the overflow box.
Yes.
Which is why I'm like, what? Sized overflow box. Maybe I've got this wrong. A minute. Or maybe I did do it. I'm pretty sure I've done this before. Quite a few times actually. It's been a while though. Let's have a look. This is what we're learning. Right. It specifies its size but passes on the original constraints through to its child, which may then overflow. It's not what we want. We want a minimum size. I'm going to just try this. I think this is where I was going originally, and then we'll see what happens, right? And let's see how well this does. Ooh. So it's saying that the minimum, obviously the maximum and the minimum, then the constraints being passed back would be wrong. We need the parent to size itself to the constraints. I don't think we actually have. I mean, sized overflow box would be the nearest thing I could think of, but I don't think it does what we want. But let's try it. Let's just. Is it sized or size? Sized. Because you need to give it a size, and then we can say constraints dot max, right? Biggest. And then we say mins of these things. The problem. Let's just have a quick look here. Right, do all this. Apart from ignore that expand. Well, this is interesting, right? So we're not getting the. You can see here now we're not getting. I mean, you know, we are getting overflow on this side, but is that? It's going all the way, isn't it? So that's not working. That's interesting. If I just got this, let's restart. Just make sure. That's definitely. It should be laying out larger than that, right? So now this is okay. So we're gonna make a. I think I might just go dig out widget. 1 second. You have to sing and dance for a second.
No, I was just going to say we're past the 3-hour mark. So
we have this one thing to do.
Okay.
One thing.
Just one thing.
Just one thing, and then we're rolling up.
What was that in? That was in the movie with the three funny guys and the cowboy. Got to find the one thing. What movie was that? Is that about cowboys? Don't remember. Brains rotted these days.
Okay. We're going to come back to it. Yeah. I'm just gonna do the blue pizza and say here's one I made earlier. I'm just gonna chuck a widget now I made earlier because I can't be messed with this. And you all get it for free because I'm such a nice person. Right, so page overflow. Let's go chuck that in. I'll chuck it in here. Why not? Do I want to chuck it in here? No, I'm going to put it at the end. Right. So what we actually want to do is a custom render object, as I was saying earlier, but I can't bother doing it. And since I've already done it, you can have it. It is, however, quite old at this point. So we're going to super. Oh my goodness, look at all this. Car. Where did all this come from? Right, and the problem with this is what? Because we need to import that. All right. This should be fine as a proxy. Oh no, I wanted alignment. All right, that's fine. We'll get the free alignment. Right, and then math. Let's import math. Okay, so I'll walk you through the widget briefly, and then, well, let's make sure it works. That's the first thing.
Good plan.
So where are we? Page layout, and then page layout has a page overflow with my fixed 320 and 400. And now, yes, that actually works. Good. We need a slightly larger height on this, width on this at 400. 400. Right. When you get smaller, there'll be a point, and there you go. It doesn't overflow, it doesn't show an error. It just stops calculating. So let's put this at 450. So we're watching. So it says, right. So there it is, larger, right? Larger than life. And as we get smaller, there'll be a point, which is the 450 mark, which it will just stop, and it won't overflow, but it won't. Now I put the alignment. The alignment at the moment is top left. We can also put center. But essentially, it's saying this is the minimum size you can go, and then the rest of the content. So there you go. So, so you don't get any layout problems, but equally, it's not going to be an experience. But then that's the point, right? You can't have both, right?
Yeah.
You could do something where, okay, if it's small, that will start scaling it down, right? I mean, you really, yeah, be careful what you wish for, put it that way. Anyway,
yeah.
So, and then the same goes for the height, but you know, we don't have to have a height in name. In fact, I made it so it's optional, so you don't even have to have that. If you're scrolling the content, then there effectively is no minimum if you're doing it right. Depends on how you lay out your page, right? Anyway, okay, so let me just walk you through this one, and then we'll call it quits.
Cool.
So we extend single child render object. This is how you create a custom render widget. In this case, there's 3 parameters: width, height, alignment. We pass those over to our, when this is the function you must override when implementing a single child render object. So we pass over our implementation, and this gets the directionality, so you do the alignment and the width, pass the width and height over. And then we get an update of our widget. Then we can update the parameters as well. And remember, if those that don't know, render objects, that's what this render page overflow is, are stateful. They keep around after hot reload and hot restart. They're reused. So that's one of the reasons why you have to be quite careful about how you do these things. So in this case, here's our initial parameters that we pass across. We persist. The underscore variables are our persisted version. We have a getter and a setter for each of our state variables. When they change, their value is different. We set the new value, and then we say mark needs layout. This is telling the system that the variable, well, the values that have changed in this render object, and now it needs to be relayed out to be valid on the screen. And that will all be done for you. You don't have to worry about it. But anyway, so 1 for width, 1 for height. Oh yeah, and then the reason why I don't have to do alignment or text direction is they are actually provided by the super object. So I extended the render aligning shifted box, which is part of the framework which deals with that. So we didn't have to do that. Cut down the code. And then here is the magic that actually does what was causing us problems earlier, right? So we get the width and height that's been specified. If they're null, they're not been specified, then we use the constraint coming in. And then we then take that constraint, we set the minimum to being that width or height. We normalize it, guaranteeing that what the complaint earlier that we didn't see would happen, which means the maximums must be greater than the minimums. We lay out a child, and then we set our size of our widget to be the size coming, the size actually coming in, so always our size coming in, and but the height to be the maximum of the child and the height coming in. Yeah, I think actually this is actually incorrect now. I think about it. Probably want this. Let's have a look. That should be that, I would assume. No, I haven't broken it. That's just, yeah, anyway, yeah, fix the bug in it anyway. So yeah, now it appropriately sets the right size and then aligns the child in those bounds based on the alignment. So that is the full gizmo.
Cool.
Hopefully that kind of helped a lot of people, hopefully. Yeah. There is some other things we could have done, but you know, there's only so much time we got, and hopefully that helped. We didn't do anything to do with the homepage banner. I just skipped over the contents here, but there's probably definitely a lot more that could be done in here to make that look nice. Yeah. Anyway, we're not going to go there now. That is it. I'm going to post this code. Can we scroll the shrink state? Oh, you mean when it gets to the minimum? There's no reason why you couldn't add that. I mean, you can still scroll it up and down. There's no reason why you couldn't add scroll in the other axis.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to go there right now, but yes, you can do that. Right. Let me post this up on a gist, and then we can all be on the same page. Do we have the original gist?
I don't have it handy. I can find it if you need it.
No, I found it. I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
Yeah, it'd probably be in your browser history too, and I don't have that because I never actually followed it.
Well, I'm going to just fork the original, so it's got retainership over original. I'm going to say this is what we call this. We're going to call this web page example, Flutter example / code review
/ puppies. You get SEO that way. / puppies.
Kittens and puppies. Right. Humpday Q&A on.
See, Solomon, you really got to use Jasper now because the logo for Jasper is a dog.
Where is right? Call it homepage.dart. Right, grab that, chuck it in there. Update. How do I make it public? Make public. Yes. Okay. Let's post that in the chat so everyone's got it. I can find the chat. There you go, everyone. It is on screen and in the chat. Jasper is similar to Flutter. Let me put a link in the chat. We're not going to talk about it now. In fact, I'm sure you can go find Killian on some. Throw Killian on the bus. You can find him on some social media somewhere, and you can ask him. But yeah, Jasper is the package we're talking about. You're going to need to. It's not. Yeah,
Jasper makes websites. It's more like a standard JavaScript framework, but it's all in Dart, and it does have some Flutter sort of overlap so that you can have embed Flutter applications as parts of it. You can, but you can do pre-rendering or client-side rendering both, and you can also use packages like Riverpod and GoRouter and leverage off of that. So it's quite an interesting mix of things. Yeah.
Right. That is it for today.
Hey.
Thank you for everyone for joining us. We do have a Patreon. I keep meaning to mention this, but we do have a Patreon that really helps because we pay for the streaming software every month. It's like, and if we have guests on, we have to have a more expensive version and stuff like that. So yeah, it really does help. Any contributions that people can make. Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. It actually does help. So interactions with the video help us get promoted on YouTube and find more Flutter people and people that are interested in Flutter.
And subscribe to my channel. I pasted the link earlier.
Even better, do that as well.
Yeah. Also linked.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm going to see you same time, same place next week. Bye for now. Bye.